There'll be a brief drier interlude across the southern half of the UK before further rain pushes its way north and eastwards into the early hours of Sunday morning, leaving a very mild night, lows of only around 10 or 11 degrees across much of England and Wales. Across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, a bit of a chillier start to Sunday and some brighter skies, so some sunshine as we go through Sunday morning. Further south across England and Wales, once that rain clears its way eastwards, there'll be some sunshine developing here too, particularly as we head into the afternoon. However, there will be some showers bubbling up, and these could turn particularly heavy across the Midlands. Another very mild day, temperatures widely above average for the time of year, with highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Monday starts a little drier again for most of us. A band of rain slowly pushes its way eastwards through Monday morning, leaving a dry and bright afternoon for most of us. Plenty of sunshine on offer and temperatures still remaining above average for the time of year. It'll be a changeable rest of the week with further interludes of rain and some drier spells, and those temperatures staying above average.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've got cash, treats and a spring shopping spree to be won in a great British giveaway. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash. Plus there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQs live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQs live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me in the next hour, former Labour advisor Matthew Laza, Also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. In a few moments' time, I'll be mucking the week with presenter of the Saturday 5 on GB News, Darren Grimes, which, of course, you can catch later at 6 o'clock after my show. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. The top stories from the GB Newsroom. Two of the UK's biggest supermarket chains, Tesco and Sainsbury's, have been hit with technical issues. Thousands of shoppers won't get their online groceries delivered as a result. Both have said their IT systems have suffered technical issues, meaning they can't fulfil their online orders. Sainsbury's say that some shops are also affected due to issues with contactless payments, and they're working hard to fix the issue. Tesco says they're sorry for the inconvenience. Argos, which is owned by Sainsbury's, is also experiencing the same issues. Economy Minister Vaughan Gething has been elected as the Welsh Labour leader, and he'll succeed Mark Drakeford as the first Minister of Wales. He beat his only rival, the Education Minister Jeremy Miles. Mr Gething won't take over as First Minister until Wednesday, when a vote will be held in the Senedd. After 25 years of devolution, he says he remains committed to the cause.
Today, we turn a page in the book of our nation's history. A history that we write together. Not just because I have the honour of becoming the first black leader in any European country, but because a generational dial has jumped too. Like Ken and Jane, devolution is not something that I have had to get used to, or to adapt to, or to apologise for. Devolution, Welsh solutions to Welsh problems and opportunities, is in my blood.
Tory MPs have reportedly held secret talks to oust the Prime Minister and to install Penny Mordaunt as the leader of the Conservative Party. According to The Telegraph, the meetings taken place between a group of right-wing Tories and MPs who supported Ms Mordaunt in the previous two leadership elections. This comes, of course, after a week that saw former Tory Deputy Chairman Lee Anderson join the Reform UK party and Rishi Sunak rule out a general election in early May. Senior political analyst at Orthodox Conservatives David Moore told GB News the change might be what's needed to boost public confidence.
The Conservative Party have had so many leaders. I think people are frustrated, the membership is frustrated, the voters are frustrated, in fact apathetic. A lot of voters are very worried about getting out to vote at the moment, and we need some certainty, quite frankly, and we need strong Conservative leadership. Now, some people think and see Penny Mordaunt as a vehicle for that. With a strong background in defence. At the moment, a lot of people are very unhappy at the moment, and the membership especially. But at the moment, the general election is looming. This could be in May, this could be in October, but the Conservatives need to come into that election united.
The female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull has formally appealed against the decision to clear team principal Christian Horner of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but she was suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry into her allegations. Horner was allowed to continue in his role when he was cleared of any wrongdoing. And motorists have been avoiding the M25 after the first ever planned daytime closure began late last night. Drivers have been warned to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11, which has been shut until 6 o'clock Monday morning. GB News South East of England reporter Ray Addison has been tracking developments.
Now, I'm here on the edge of the M25. You can see traffic behind me approaching junction 11 heading southbound. Now, they're being forced to take that exit because of that 5-mile closure. They'll be taken on an 11.5-mile diversion through several villages, causing locals to be very concerned about gridlocked traffic. National Highways, though, has warned people not to travel unless absolutely necessary. And it seems so far that warning has been heeded.
For the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now back to Nana.
Thank you, Tatiana. It's been a muckier week, and it's time to muck the week. And what a busy one it's been. Keir Starmer and his left-wing cronies are masters of the art of distraction, as the focus this week shifted off Lee Anderson's defection to reform to comments made 5 years ago about Diane Abbott, which were eventually deemed by Rishi as racist. The businessman behind the comments, Frank Hester, who is also one of the Tory party's biggest donors, having reportedly handed over $15 million to the party, apologised as he should. But Rishi initially dithered to give his verdict. I wonder why the comments resurfaced 5 years later. Perhaps something to do with a general election? And in PMQs, the Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, who has just come out of his own controversy for changing procedure after Keir Starmer had a word in his ear, did not allow Diane Abbott to speak during the debate, which was centred around her, which made no sense. She got up over 40 times, but was ignored. Whilst I'm not her biggest fan, as you well know, questions need to be answered as to why she was not given an opportunity to speak. Liz Truss and Kemi Badenoch accused the Labour Party of using parliamentary procedure to block a debate on transgender reforms. Labour MPs talked so long about a bill being debated in the morning, there was no time left to debate Miss Truss's bill in the afternoon, which would have banned puberty blockers, protected single-sex spaces and prevented teachers from helping a child change gender. In the meantime, Michael Gove came up with a new definition for extremism, which didn't encapsulate trans activists. Are we having a laugh? They are the very definition of extreme. They believe a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. How much further from biological reality do you need to be? But nobody appeared happy with Michael's definition.
Let me just ask, in the interest of balance, is there anyone here who welcomes what Michael Gove had to say and supports what he had to say?
It's gone well, Lee.
Not a hand up, OK.
Oh, dear. And Keir Starmer said arts are for everyone, everywhere. Perhaps someone should tell him that his Labour London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, believes that, if he truly believes that, it seems to be only on certain days, because he's allowing blackouts, which are nights of black-only identifying audiences at theatres, which in my view is very wrong. Penny Mordaunt is being tipped as the next Prime Minister, as letters of no confidence are piling up against Rishi Sunak. And Wales appoints its first black leader of the Labour Party, Vaughan Gethin, who describes himself as a Welshman born in Zambia. His father, a vet from the Vale of Glamorgan in South Wales, met his mother, a Zambian chicken farmer, whilst he was working in southern Africa. And finally, the Church of England has offered to pay $1 billion in reparations. Interesting times. It's been a mucky old week. So welcome on board, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, we are the People's Channel. Coming up, I'll be joined by the Saturday 5 presenter Darren Grimes, who'll be making light of this week's top stories in Muck the Week. Then Penny for PM. A group of right-wing Conservative MPs believe Miss Mordaunt should lead the Tories into the next election. But will this move benefit the Tories, or are the Tories already toast? So in the Great British Debate this hour, I'll be asking. Then at 3:35, Dr Rennie Hodenkamp will be live to discuss the ban on puberty blockers, which are used to delay the effects of puberty, which will no longer be available to anyone under the age of 18. And the former head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence, Chip Chapman, is a political spotlight this week, as once again pro-Palestine protests are filing the streets of cities across the country, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, and the government unveiled their new definition of extremism. So we'll be discussing that and what it means to them. And, of course, Sainsbury's and Tesco's still will not be able to fulfil the vast majority of online deliveries today due to technical issues. That's all coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. So it's time to Muck the Week, and joining me to do so is Saturday 5 presenter Darren Grimes. Darren, grimy. What a grimy old week it's been. So there's obviously been a lot of controversy over Diana, but I personally took the comments as, well, you know, look, a lot of people, I can understand why some people will see racism in them. Me personally, I've heard a lot worse, and I didn't deem that to be particularly racist. I know a lot of people did, and everyone's entitled to their view. But Darren, if you look at this, what on earth is going on that these comments should resurface 5 years later?
Well, it's a clear attempt to defund the Conservative Party, Nana, because he is the biggest donor of that party just before a general election. So dare I say this is the Guardian playing politics for their favoured political party, which is the Labour Party. Now, we can both agree that the comments were quite unpleasant.
Oh, they were very bad. You can't say that.
I don't especially think, though, that he should be told who he can and cannot donate his money to, right? In any free society, you can be as obnoxious and intolerant or intolerable as you possibly want to be and still be able to accept that we need freedom of association. So this man can associate himself with the Conservative Party if he wants to. It's up to the Conservative Party to say no, but I don't think they should be forced into not accepting this man's money.
Well, I don't as well. And if you look at, you know, some of the things that have gone on within the Labour Party itself, and some of the comments that Diane Abbott herself have made, you know, I just think we need to literally take a bit of a chill pill. And he has apologised. He's apologised for the way they came across. He's apologised, and, you know, I think that you can talk to people and explain why this would come across as racist and why most people thought it was.
Absolutely.
And hopefully he will learn not to make comments like that in public.
And let's not forget, Diane Abbott, as you rightly mentioned there, she claimed white people love playing divide and rule. She implied white mothers are inferior, praising West Indian mothers' dedication to their children. She criticised Finnish nurses in a local hospital for their ethnicity, suggesting that they couldn't empathise with black patients. She's labelled London cab drivers as racist, saying they don't pick up black women or people. Now, minimised anti-Semitism, of course, most recently by suggesting that Jewish people don't experience racism.
Well, that's why she was suspended, really.
Exactly. So, you know, she has a litany of examples of being, I would argue, one of the most divisive politicians in the House of Commons. So I do think it's a bit rich for the bleeding heart to stand up and say, you know, I've got to get my moment in the sun and milk this for all it's worth, which she absolutely has been doing. I don't think it's a threat to democracy that Diane Abbott wasn't allowed to stand in the House of Commons, which is what she said.
Well, I don't think it is at all, but I think she should have been given the opportunity to speak there, because that to me, you know, look, she should be allowed to at least speak about something that literally they spent almost all of Prime Minister's questions talking about it. So at the very least, the person who's there, they should have. I don't know why they didn't.
And let's not forget, though, right, that the Labour Party basically bent the knee to the activists that are on our streets right now in London by not allowing a vote to go through on Gaza, right, by not allowing that debate to be had, because actually the biggest threat to MPs right now, I would argue, is the threat from Islamist extremism. You know, we saw that with Sir David Amess, the murder of a Tory MP. We've seen it time and again over the last decade or so, and we can't have that discussion. No. So why is it that we can never actually get to the meat, as it were, about why MPs are at risk, and why I would argue, actually, I do think they need security, Nana?
I do actually think that as well. But I would say, though, that some of the things that have been let go, so allowing somebody to protest outside an MP's house, I can't even understand why that would have even been allowed, but they did. The police said, oh, well, they're peacefully protesting, and it's like, no, they weren't. They were making noise. It was very intimidating.
Just yesterday, Lee Anderson he was on a constituency walk, and he had a string of abuse shouted at him, right, by this woman who was a real bloody loudmouth, if I can say that.
Well, apologies if anyone's offended, but if it's true, it's true.
But, you know, it was intolerable, and I thought, wow, you know, but Lee Anderson, of course, is on the right, so that kind of intimidation...
Well, that's all right, then.
It's all right,
Don't worry about that.
Gets away with it. It's absolutely fine. So I think there's a double standard at play here as well.
I would say so. You know, I would say so. If you're going to hold people up for things that other people are saying, then even those in the spotlight need to be held to account as well. Now, the Labour Party is sneakily using parliamentary procedure to not allow Liz Truss and Kemi Badenoch to put forward their motions. Now, I find this so divisive that the politicians understand the procedures, which a lot of the general public don't, and manipulate it, because that's what they're claiming, to disable debate on certain really important topics of the opposition parties.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we just had the WPATH files leaked recently, which actually exposed the fact that healthcare professionals were placing children children on generally irreversible hormone treatments, and actually that they may have been linked to a cancer case in one child with liver cancer. Now, to not be able to discuss that in Parliament, which is what Liz Truss, former Prime Minister, was seeking to do, and instead filibuster on ferrets. I'm not actually joking there.
I know.
It sounds insane. I haven't had a drink, I promise.
Yes.
And I just thought, this is intolerable, because if we believe the polls, the Labour Party are going to have quite the massive majority. They can do what they want in the House of Commons. And I feel really quite, well, dare I say, I feel a little bit offended, can I use that word, by the fact that we are not safeguarding children, that we are allowing children to be sacrificed on an altar of whackery and wokery over health and safety. And I just find that an intolerable position, and I don't think the Labour Party have made absolutely clear that they are not going to be on the side of science and safeguarding.
They're quite good. Like Keir Starmer, to me, is very good at manipulating and using procedure to sort of deflect. That's what I see with him. I don't see him actually doing stuff, but I wonder, for example, the thing that came up, the comments made that came up 5 years later, after they've been made, come at such a poignant time. Why now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to complain about these comments, it should be done straight away. Now, what about Michael Gove? I feel that the parties are messing around now with definitions and words, and a new definition for extremism, when I'm sure the original one would have been fine if they'd even acted on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, this just smacks of a new era of McCarthyism, where we're going to have even less speech on university campuses, where students and academics will be in fear that they'll be labelled extreme, because this definition is so vague, right? It could apply. And as I say, when Labour get in power as well, they'll have a different interpretation of what is and isn't extremism than the Conservative Party, or indeed Michael Gove might have. Michael Gove wrote a book in the early 2000s, and it was on the response to terror and the response to 9/11, essentially. Now, that could be viewed as extremism, to take such a robust stand as he did against Islamism. Now, I worry that Michael Gove maybe in the future wouldn't be able to publish a book like that.
Well, that's...
So, you know...
This is the worry when you do that, the unintended consequences that occur when you meddle with something that hasn't been used properly anyway. Look, we know what the definition is. And yet, things like trans activism, which I would say is quite extremist, would not be incorporated within the definition.
Or standing on the streets and saying we need jihad and intifada, right?
Exactly.
Violence on the streets. I mean, if that's not extreme, I don't know what is.
Penny Mordaunt, she's being tipped as the next Prime Minister.
Absolutely not, Nana. Absolutely not.
Why are they doing this to us?
Penny is a lovely person. I've met her a few times. She's really lovely, and she's very, very good at the dispatch box.
Ceremony, standing on ceremony, doing this from around...
Bashing the SNP. I love that. That's great. And, of course, as you mentioned, the sword, carrying the sword.
She was like a little Lego person carrying the sword.
She was brilliant. Really good. But I don't think she's leadership material. Let's not forget that Penny Mordaunt stood at the dispatch box and displayed what I would regard as a extreme, if I can use that word again, form of political naivety. She stood at the dispatch box, Nana, and she said trans women are women.
I remember that, yeah. That's the unforgivableness of it all, really, as much as... And also, look, who wants to be at the helm of a sinking ship, which is where it's going?
Well, if she wants to do it, I mean, let her do it. She can't be any worse than Rishi, I suppose.
She can hold that sword at the helm of the big wheel.
She's going to lead it.
I will keep everything together! Everyone behind Penny! She kind of reminds me of that woman in... what's that film? Oh, God, I can't remember it now. It will come back to me. The police film, Tackleberry's Wife.
Oh, yes. Oh, no,
you know
I
the
can't
one,
remember
Stephen
that.
Guttenberg.
Yeah.
Steve Guttenberg. Oh. I know people at home, they know what I'm saying.
They'll email in.
Yeah, they will do. And then Wales appoints the first black leader of the Labour Party.
Yes, so Vaughan Gething stood up and he said that he was the former health secretary, so he was the one basically enabling the tin pot dictator in Wales, Mark Drakeford, who's now gone, who was banning the sale of baby clothes and all the rest of it, mask mandates and all the rest of it. He was obsessed. He was a beast unleashed. He couldn't wait to actually differentiate himself from nasty old England and Westminster. And this is what it's about. It's political posturing. I think this is a parliament of pygmies, this Welsh parliament. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money. I don't think it serves the Welsh people. Welsh farmers are in revolt against the net zero policies. I think it's a total con. And I think Vaughan Gething standing up and saying he's he's the first black leader in I think he said all of Europe. I couldn't care less. Are you going to deliver?
Is he going to be good at the job?
Exactly.
Look, I love it if there is somebody who's the first of whatever, but they need to be good at the job. That's the first and foremost thing.
Yeah.
And then if it happens to be that you are of a different, you know, no one's ever seen somebody who's black leading the Labour Party in Wales, then that's wonderful as well. But you do actually need to be good at what you're doing.
You've got to show some competency.
You've got to be good. Otherwise, if you're the first black person doing that thing and you don't do it well, you know how it works. People then see you as a representative of that race. That's how it is. And that people should admit that that is often the case. Now, finally, Church of England offering to pay reparations.
Yeah. It's not pocket change either, right? This is a
reparations.
£1 billion fund. So to actually, they say in sort of recompense for the colonial past. Now, I would argue that actually the Church of England needs to be focusing on its survival, and it could do a lot with homelessness as well. Why not focus on these issues, which would help people black and white in this country and around the world, as opposed to focusing on appeasing a few extreme activists in this country?
I don't get it. Reparations. I had a really good link of the guy who was saying, you want us to give you money, somebody you've got nothing to do with what happened before.
Exactly.
Who are you handing the money to?
Yeah.
Who are you giving the money to?
It's irrelevant to the people that you're handing the money to.
We literally live in the most comfortable era that we have, especially if you're of colour. You can do whatever you like, however you like. You can't continue to complain about historic...
And the UK did more than most to end slavery, let's not forget.
But also the most productive and most sort of intelligent people in this country, supposedly, at schools are black African women. I think it's the Asian students, so I think mainly Chinese students. Then it's black African women. And then at the very bottom, it's some white working class and also West Indian. So to say that we're not doing well as a result, I mean, I'll probably be seen as a black African, which I am. So
exactly.
I'm doing all right. Darren Grimes, thank you so much. You're back tonight.
6 o'clock, Nana.
Top topics on...
Oh, yeah. Well, it's going to be one hell of a show. We've not got Benjamin Butterworth in today, so some viewers might be delighted by that news.
Brilliant. All right, then, well, listen, stay with us. This is GB Views on gbnews.com. You can get in touch that way. Coming up, the UK has banned puberty blockers for minors. Is this the right call for the government? But up next, Penny Mordaunt for Prime Minister. Reports suggest that MPs have held talks with her, and she could replace Rishi anytime soon.
Mark Dolan Tonight. Weekends from 9 p.m.
I've personally been very torn on whether Prince Harry should have full police protection when he's in the United Kingdom. On the one hand, why should taxpayers fork out for somebody that's left the country and the institution? He is no longer a working, serving royal. But I don't think it matters. He is one of the most famous men in the world, and whether he's a royal or not, he is an ambassador for this country. And he still does good. Charitable causes, the Invictus Games, and he is still a nice and charming guy with a heart. And whilst he has left the royal family and departed these shores, he was and remains the son of King Charles. That is a biological fact. Well, let's hope so. And it wasn't his choice to be born into royalty. It wasn't his choice to be the son of the king. And for that reason, I think he should have equal police protection to his brother William when he is in this country. He couldn't be a more high-profile figure, and unfortunately, like all the royals, Harry will be a target for some very bad people. I fear that if, God forbid, anything happened to him or his family, the authorities would have blood on their hands. So, it's not often that I back Prince Harry, but on this one, he has my support. Look what happened to his poor mum, killed in a Paris tunnel in the 1990s with an allegedly drunk chauffeur. A top royal security insider recently told me that Diana would still be with us today if she had had top royal protection at that time. So let's not make the same mistake twice. Prince Harry needs full protection and the best we've got. Yes, he might be a numpty, but he's our numpty.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next up, Sainsbury's and Tesco's are both experiencing technical issues today, meaning that both will not be able to fulfil thousands of online orders. Sainsbury's has said it's working hard to fix the issue and apologised to customers affected. Tesco said we are working to fix a technical issue, which has meant we have had to cancel some online orders that were due for delivery today. We're sorry for the inconvenience. I bet they are. Well, let's get over to our national reporter, Theo Chukumba. Theo, talk to us about what what's going on?
Yeah, well, it's not one, but it's 2 of the biggest supermarkets in the UK. Sainsbury's and Tesco's have said today that they're having IT issues when it comes to people ordering online. Now, we're at Sainsbury's here in Woolwich, and people have been coming here saying they're having some technical issues inside, whereas in the past, earlier today, they would have been using contactless, but now they're having to put their card in and use the old-fashioned way of chip and pin. Now, of course, this comes as lots of us now rely on online orders. Convenient for many of us, and for those who are unable to come to shops physically, it's also a bonus. So many of those who had ordered today, expecting their orders today, Sainsbury's saying the vast majority of those orders won't be arriving today, and they're hoping the situation is solved by tomorrow. And then today we also had Tesco. They were saying they've been having some technical issues, so again, people looking to order today won't be able to order online and also have their items delivered, which they might have been preparing for a meal or otherwise this evening. Now, of course, Argos, which we see some of those stores inside Sainsbury's now, they've also said people who are coming into their stores may have some issues, and for those ordering online as well. But we caught some of those who are leaving the store here earlier on. This is what they had to say about their experience so far today.
Well, I suppose the technology these days, I think that anything can happen.
It was weird that the contactless wasn't working, but I didn't know about the IT glitch, so it makes sense, but it's a bit strange that they're both together on the same day.
Not ideal, is it? Especially on a Saturday when you're off work and expecting that your orders will arrive today. We're just seeing a van go past Morrison's one. They are working today, but this comes a day after we saw that outage at McDonald's, who were saying this is not to do with hacking, despite some of the reports we've been seeing in the press.
Thank you so much, Theo Chukumba, reporter. Right, let's go over to Olivia Utley, because Tory members have reportedly engaged in clandestine discussions aimed at replacing the Prime Minister and installing Penny Mordaunt as the new leader of the Conservative Party. So, joining me now, GB News' political correspondent Olivia Utley. My goodness, what is going on with these people?
Well, absolutely. All sorts of whisperings behind the scenes. Up until now, the general consensus in the Conservative Party has been that getting rid of Rishi Sunak now, however unpopular he might be, would be disastrous. Installing a 4th Tory leader in as many years, I think it is, doesn't exactly show a strong and stable government. Now, it seems, there are a few ministers and a few backbench MPs who are beginning to think that actually it can't get any worse for the Conservative Party, and that unless they get rid of Rishi Sunak, they could end up losing more seats than they lost in the 1997 Labour landslide. the number of Tory MPs who said they will stand down at the next election is now second only to that of the number that stood down in 1997. That is a measure of just how low morale is in the party at the moment. There was hope that the budget might restore some confidence in the Conservative Party, but if you look at the polls, it seems to have had absolutely no impact at all. It is that, combined with the scandal over Frank Hester over the last week, at which point, you know, Rishi Sunak felt as though he didn't really act very quickly, didn't act decisively. He had to wait for Kemi Badenoch to speak before he actually gave the push. Those two events combined have led some Conservative MPs to start to say, hang on a minute, we need to get rid of this man. And Penny Mordaunt seems to be the obvious candidate to replace him. There are a couple of issues with that. One is that there are plenty on the right of the Conservative Party who cannot forgive Penny Mordaunt for saying at the Dispatch box that she believes trans women are women. That is a cultural issue that is alive and well in the Conservative Party, and some simply can't get over those comments. The other issue is that Penny Mordaunt has a very slim majority, and based on current polling trajectories, she could lose her seat. Obviously, if the leader of the Conservative Party was to lose her seat in an election, it would be a very bad look for the party indeed. My instinct is that there aren't going to be a whole swathe of letters of no confidence in the Prime Minister over the next few weeks. I think it will be him who leads the Conservative Party into the next general election. But with all these whisperings, I can't say for certain.
God, crikey. She's at the helm of, unfortunately, a sinking ship. Thank you very much, Olivia. Right, well, an urgent warning has been issued regarding the significant disruption and potential gridlock on the M25 as a portion of the highway undergoes major construction work. Joining me now, GBNews reporter Ray Addison. Ray, what can you tell me? Are people listening to the warnings and staying away?
Hey, Nana, yes, it appears that they are. I have to say, we've been down there to the M25. We found our way into the woods. I got stung by some nettles. We had a look over the fence and we were looking at the traffic as it was approaching that slip road, that M25 junction 11 heading southbound. And it was moving. It was moving OK. Of course, we've heard these reports about tailbacks 2 miles, 5 miles, although I think traffic is being slightly slowed down as it approaches that obstruction and that exit. It is eventually moving, and then when it does come, it's moving fairly steadily through these diversion, this 11.5 mile diversionary route. It's all been mapped out here, the M25 diverted, traffic signs, you see them all along this route. We've been driving up and down it all day long, enjoying the people beeping their horns at us as well as we've been broadcasting, but it's been fairly easy, no major disruption. Locals here telling me as well that actually this is a bit quieter than it normally is, and so it appears that that warning from National Highways, stay at home, fix up your garden, fix up your bathroom, they've paid attention to that. And also it would appear that they're not using their sat-navs, they're following that diversion and they're not getting stuck and they're not causing congestion in other areas. And that's really good news for these small villages, because although they do get traffic, it's a route to London, this is the A320, there has been a very well thought out plan put in place and it's working so far.
Crikey, that makes a change, Ray Addison. Thank you so much. That's Ray Addison, somewhere near the M25. Welcome aboard if you've just tuned in. Coming up to 33 minutes after 3 o'clock, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, I'll be joined by the former head of counter-terrorism as the Ministry of Defence, Major General Chip Chapman, to discuss the new definition of extremism. What does it mean and who will be affected? But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It's 3:32. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. Two of the UK's biggest supermarket chains, Tesco and Sainsbury's, have been hit with technical issues. Thousands of shoppers won't get their online groceries delivered as a result. Both have said their IT systems have suffered technical problems, meaning they can't fulfil those orders. Sainsbury's says some shops are affected due to issues with contactless payments and they're working hard to fix the issue. Tesco say they're sorry for the inconvenience. Argos, owned by Sainsbury's, is also experiencing similar problems. The Economy Minister, Vaughan Gething's been elected as the Welsh Labour leader and will succeed Mark Drakeford as the First Minister of Wales. He beat his only rival, the Education Minister, Jeremy Miles. Mr Gething won't take over as First Minister until Wednesday, when a vote will be held in the Senate. Motorists have been avoiding the M25, as you've been hearing, after the first ever planned daytime closure began late last night. Drivers have been warned to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11. It's been shut until 6 o'clock on Monday morning. An 11.5-mile diversion route's been created to direct traffic along A roads. And the female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull team has formally appealed against the decision to clear team principal Christian Horner of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but then was suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry into the matter. Horner was allowed to continue in his role when he was cleared of any wrongdoing. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts. You can do that by scanning the QR code on your screen now, or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, it's back to Nana.
Oh, thank you so much, Ray. Coming up is Political Spotlight. Well, joining me to shine a light today is Major General Chip Chapman, who will discuss the definition of extremism. Next, puberty blockers for minors under the age of 18 are set to be banned. I'll get the thoughts from Dr. Rennie Hunderkamp. I think I've got it right. Don't go anywhere.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
I've got an idea. I think that all 30-year-olds should be given £10,000 from the banks of baby boomers. We've got a situation in this country now where millennials are the first generation in modern times expecting to be poorer than their parents. We, as 30-year-olds like me, are half as likely to own a house as people my age 30 years ago. In fact, the cost of a home in Britain compared to average incomes has as big a gap today as it did, wait for it, in the 1860s. It is a Dickensian situation.
Now, I'm sorry about the housing crisis for your generation.
You're not, though, are you?
No,
because you're profiting from it.
I'm profiting from it. Don't be ridiculous.
The house prices now, compared to that period.
If this is the case, Benjamin...
Have incomes gone up that fast?
To penalise and punish the elderly when they have worked all their lives to put into the system and say it's your fault, whingy, whiny, we're going to be envious...
But Linda, we're being punished.
No, by the politics, so be the change you want to see in the world.
I am actually, and I'm about to tell you about the change I want to see in the world.
Are you good? As long as it's not whining about it.
I'm going to stop whining about it, but we are being taken advantage of at the moment to profit, to help the old. Most of taxpayers' money is spent in two departments, the NHS, so the health department, and the Department for Work and Pensions. Those departments disproportionately serve the older population. Now, I've got no issue with that, but let's not pretend that it is not young working people that is paying for the public services for old people. So actually, we are having it hard, and I just look at the future, and we see a future of perpetually higher taxes to pay for this increasing ageing population, a shrinking labour force, and you're here saying we've got nothing to worry about.
The young stop voting for mass immigration parties. The young stop voting for parties that don't build houses.
Immigrants actually pay taxes, pensioners don't.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? It's all right, you've only missed 38 minutes. I'm Nana Akua, we're live. This is GB News, we are the People's Channel. Now, the former Prime Minister Liz Truss tabled a private member's bill on changing the law when it comes to defining biological sex. Now, yesterday, she outlined the details of her bill. Let's take a listen.
Sex means biological sex. It's the sex you are born as.
That is how children should be treated until they're 18 and they're old enough to make their own decisions. And what it will mean is it will protect single-sex facilities like toilets, single-sex sports like girls' sports.
Also, amidst the debates over the use of puberty-suppressing hormones for children with gender dysphoria, the NHS in England has implemented a significant change in policy banning puberty blockers for under-18s, whilst the therapy has shown promise in alleviating distress for some individuals with gender dysphoria. It's rather nice, rather creative. I don't know why they did that. Concerns, I'm joking. Concerns persist regarding long-term impacts on bone density, brain development and cognitive function. So is it time? Is this the right decision? Joining me now is GP and medical writer, Dr. Renee.
Hello. That's fine. My patients call me Dr. Renee.
Dr. Renee, so is it the right decision?
Absolutely, it's the right decision. And frankly, Nana, it doesn't go far enough. Because it should actually ban these hormones from being prescribed by anybody. And by that, I mean the private clinics. So that's a loophole that exists. Lots of these children go via private clinics because the wait lists actually for the gender clinics are so long. And then they come to the NHS already established on them. And we've got doctors sitting in Spain prescribing for our children here and sending hormones by post. You know, it's a disgrace.
What is the obsession with this? Why can they not just allow the children to go through puberty, to acknowledge who and how they are, and then at that point, if you feel like doing that, do it?
Well, the simple answer to that, Nana, is because the activists know that if they let children go through the natural process of puberty, which is what they're trying to stop, 90% of them will actually settle with their natural biological sex and be happy. Whereas if they go onto puberty blockers, 90% of them will go onto cross-sex hormones. So if you get them on the train early, they stay on the train. And then when they get into adulthood and they're actually unhappy with what they've done, it's too late.
But it feels almost like sort of grooming. I know it's not meant to be, but it feels like you're getting them onto a lifetime of medication.
Yeah.
Which
who can't understand. How can a 13-year-old understand the implications of a lifetime of medication, of surgery, of being infertile? You know, no 13-year-old can really understand the consequences of that, because only when we've been through puberty and we are women and men do we then even start thinking about fertility and children and whether it's something we want to add to our lives. And it is a form of grooming because lots of them are being groomed online. So the moment they hear this idea about maybe I'm in the wrong body, and lots of them are gay, and so then they start thinking, oh my God, I'm gay. They're still finding that really difficult to cope with. And, you know, if you speak to anybody, all my gay friends will say that it doesn't matter how open society is, it's still a really difficult decision to come to terms with. So they go online and they Google, am I really gay? They instantly get a trans website. They go on that and that's it. The algorithm starts and they start getting taken down the rabbit hole of you're not gay, you're just in the wrong body.
And the reality is there's not really any such thing as being in the wrong body, because your body is your body. So the body you're in is your body. You might feel that you should be in a different gender stereotype of your body. But it is ultimately a gender stereotype, isn't it? Because what you see when trans women sort of dress up to become what they feel is a woman, it feels often like a caricature or a stereotype of what a woman is.
The one that we've tried to actually get rid of over the years, because we've tried to tell women they can be whatever they want, and men. Absolutely, it's that. And, you know, that no child, let's be clear, Nana, no child is born in the wrong body. They're born in the right body. What they have, however, is lots of mental distress and trauma. So many of these kids have got ADHD, autism, depression, anxiety, or trauma, quite often sexual trauma. And what needs to happen is we need to step back, stop medicalising them, help them through this, explore gently what's underpinning their distress, because certainly they're distressed. But what we're doing now is we're experimenting not just on children, we're experimenting on vulnerable children. I truly believe this will be a medical travesty that we will look back on in 10 years' time like we do now thalidomide.
It's terrible, and the number of people who have gone through this process, and one in particular, Brianna Ivy, who is an American woman, and I'll say woman because, you know, she's been through the whole thing, and I really seriously sympathise with what she's been through. So this is out of compassion, frankly, not because I believe that she is a woman. And in fact, when I spoke to her, she acknowledged that she's not a woman. She acknowledges that she's a man, and I have utmost respect for her. But she wishes that the adults had told her, stop don't do this?
Well, I think it may even have been her I read that... I read someone who had transitioned said that when I was 13, I decided that I didn't want to be a woman, it was the other way, before I even knew what it was to be a woman.
Yeah, a man,
Yeah, you know, so it's really unfair on these kids that adults are actually stepping out of the room and leaving them to it. Parents actually need to step up to the plate and actually take some responsibility and not be scared by the myths. Trans children do not kill themselves.
No. You're more likely to do it if you've gone through that and you can't go back.
And we now know that if we actually let them transition in any way, social, medical, surgery, they're not happier after it.
Yeah.
So it's not solving the problem.
No, let children be children. Thank you so much. Dr. Renee. That is Dr. Renee Hunderkamp. I think I got it right.
You did.
I got it right. She's an NHS doctor and a broadcaster. Thank you so much for joining us. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Political Spotlight is next.
Good afternoon, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So a cloudier afternoon for most of us with rain very much on its way across the UK. This all due to an area of low pressure moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. So those cloudier skies across much of the UK and some heavy rain for Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England that will push its way into parts of Scotland through this evening, turning particularly heavy across southern areas and even some snow for the hills. There'll be a brief drier interlude across the southern half of the UK before further rain pushes its way north and eastwards into the early hours of Sunday morning, leaving a very mild night, lows of only around 10 or 11 degrees across much of England and Wales. Across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, a bit of a chillier start to Sunday and some brighter skies, so some sunshine as we go through Sunday morning. Further south, across England and Wales, once that rain clears its way eastwards, there'll be some sunshine developing here too, particularly as we head into the afternoon. However, there will be some showers bubbling up, and these could turn particularly heavy across the Midlands. Another very mild day, temperatures widely above average for the time of year, with highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Monday starts a little drier again for most of us. A band of rain slowly pushes its way eastwards through Monday morning, leaving a dry and bright afternoon for most of us. Plenty of sunshine on offer and temperatures still remaining above average for the time of year. It'll be a changeable rest of the week with further interludes of rain and some drier spells, and those temperatures staying above average.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
If you just joined me, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for this week's Political Spotlight. So once again, pro-Palestine protests are filing the streets of cities across the country calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. These are the first marches to go ahead since Michael Gove unveiled the government's new definition of extremism. But what is the new definition of extremism? Well, let me tell you, it is the promotion or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred or intolerance that aims to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others, undermine, overturn or replace the UK's system of liberal parliamentary democracy and democratic rights. Now, the government says that this new definition is a narrower and more precise version than was previously introduced back in 2011. So joining me to shine a light is former head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence, Major General Chip Chapman. Chip, thank you so much for joining me. So what do you make of the new definition, this updated definition?
Well, there's no crime in law of being a terrorist, and neither is there a crime in law of being an extremist. So what this does, it doesn't have any legal statutory status, but it gives guidance, particularly for people in central government and local authorities in, for example, the Prevent agenda, because of the listing of organisations, of those organisations who, because of hatred or intolerance, should not be dealt with and given either a platform or funding, as some were in the past. Now, of course, it has violence in the title as well. If violence is there, it would go into the terrorist sort of bucket. And we've seen really in the last, well, since the 7th of September, a number of things where extremism has come about. And we've seen that manifested, for example, in referrals to the Internet Referral Unit with things such as floating hashtags of, death to Jews, Hitler was right, or kill Muslims. We've seen more referrals to the Prevent hotline and CT hotline. Now, of course, the police would look at all those and see if any offence was committed. And that's the thing, that there is a body of legislation which does exist, that if offences were committed by those extremists, then they can be dealt with. So, for example, hostility and prejudice by the Crime and Disorder Act 1986, incitement to racial hatred by the Public Order Act 1986, and so on. So it's guidance to stop those who've had funding getting funding in the future. Now, so far, Michael Gove gave 3 Islamist groups and 2 extreme right-wing groups. One might be surprised that there aren't more, but that doesn't say that Michael Gove only had a certain time in Parliament to give a snapshot, not that the list might not be growing in the future.
So do you think that we actually needed an updated definition?
I don't think it really hits the mark, but I don't think it necessarily really matters. If it's too lax, it's pointless. If it's too restrictive, it hinders debate. And it's, of course, somewhere in the middle. And it is that guidance thing which matters. So, for example, one of the groups was Cage. Now, Cage has always been a problematic group. Cage was a group, for example, that called Jihadi John a beautiful young man. Cage has been one of those groups which was vociferous in the prevent lobby and would like to see the rollback, for example, of counter-terrorist legislation. And one of the reasons why Prevent was pretty late, about 4 years late, because of the number of cases that they kind of kept bringing against the government. And, those are the groups that you want to, marginalise. Now, I do still believe, of course, in free speech in terms of, creating a informed public and debate so that we can hold these groups to account. And therefore, you shouldn't, again, have restrictive definitions in the future on things such as Islamophobia, because we need to call out these groups and Islamism in itself. Now, again, we often get confused between what is a Muslim and what is an Islamist. And an Islamist, for someone to me, and the identifiers for that are a belief that Islam is not just a religion, but a divine political ideology, which goes into potentially into the against democracy. And secondly, the demand that Sharia must be synchronized with state law. Now, the ultimate thing for those people who are Islamists on the real sort of right of that spectrum is the call for an Islamic state, the caliphate. But there are different ways that you can achieve a caliphate. Both Al-Qaeda and Islamic State had a different vision for that. One, why wait? IS. Al-Qaeda, let's mallet the far enemy, America, before we even think of this. Some of the people that we deal with or have dealt with are what we would call parliamentary Salafists, those who seek to achieve that by parliamentary means. But all of those on the Salafist line, and a Salaf is a pious predecessor, that is those who believe in things which only happened in the first 3 generations of Islam, i.e. very strict and literal interpretation of the Quran. Those are problematic in a liberal democracy.
But what about, because to me, this definition could potentially encompass, say, a Muslim party. Do you think that that would be covered under that definition if it would appear that the party are attempting to undermine democracy? Because I think that's one of the reasons why this definition has been updated in this manner, because you saw how well the Muslim vote is doing.
Well, the Muslim vote wasn't for a party; it was for the Reform Party, which believes in parliamentary democracy because it's in Parliament, and that's why there are parliamentary Salafists. There's no Islamic party at the moment which is engaged in electoral politics at that level. If they were, they probably wouldn't be banned unless they were against those fundamental rights. Now, this is where you get into a tricky area, because most of those that I sort of mentioned in the Salafist line are at least ultra-conservative, and therefore are homophobic, misogynistic, against the rights of sexual...
Well, running out of time, Chip, so I'm going to have to leave it there, Chip. But really good to talk to you. That is Major General Chip Chapman. This is GB News. On the way, my panel and my monologue. Enjoy.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So it's been a cloudy and wet afternoon for many of us, all due to an area of low pressure that's been moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and will push its way north and eastwards overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. This will bring some heavy rain and has already brought some heavy rain, particularly to parts of southern Scotland. We could even see some snow across the hills, and overnight and into the early hours of Sunday, some further heavy rain pushes up from the southwest, affecting parts of England and Wales. Under all that cloud and rain, it'll be a very mild night, temperatures not dropping much below 10 or 11 degrees. But further north, there will be some brighter spells, and that will allow temperatures to drop into the low single figures. So a chilly start for Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, with some sunshine widespread across these regions in the morning. Through the afternoon, though, that band of rain pushes its way eastward, so some sunshine developing for much of England and Wales later as well. There will be some showers bubbling up through the afternoon. They could be quite heavy in places, but another very mild day. Temperatures as high as 16 or 17 degrees across the south, and even for Scotland we could see in the double figures. Monday, a band of rain situated across the UK pushes its way eastwards, leaving a drier day for most of us. Plenty of sunshine through the rest of the morning, but for Northern Ireland, turning much cloudier as we head into the afternoon with that heavy rain arriving. It does then remain unsettled through much of next week, with temperatures widely above average for the time of year, perhaps 16 or 17.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
So stay tuned, because coming up next, former Labour advisor Matthew Lowson and broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy will be joining me, plus my monologue on the controversy of the royal family. You won't want to miss that. That's on the way.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
Oh, flipping heck. I don't know what to say.
Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQs live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQs live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be talking about some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Hi there, it's 4 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Welcome to GB News. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. Two of Britain's biggest supermarkets are suffering problems because of IT outages. It means for Sainsbury's customers, the vast majority of their online deliveries will not be delivered as a result. Both it and Tesco have said their systems suffered IT problems overnight and they can't fulfil those online orders. In Sainsbury's case, some shops have also been affected due to contactless payment failures, and they say they're working hard to fix the issue. Argos, also owned by Sainsbury's, is also experiencing issues with orders and deliveries. Our reporter Theo Chikomba has more.
Thousands of customers across the UK who are expecting to have their deliveries arrive today from Sainsbury's and Tesco's haven't been able to due to IT technical difficulties. Now, Sainsbury's say an overnight update to their system caused issues today for those who are expecting to have their deliveries arrive today. And Tesco went on to say that they're having technical difficulties today, which mean many of their customers who were expecting to receive their orders today won't be doing so. Vast majority of them won't be getting them today, and they're hoping that the situation will be solved by tomorrow so those customers can get what they've ordered.
Vaughan Gething is set to become the next First Minister of Wales after winning the Labour leadership election. He will become the first black leader of any European country after beating his only rival, Jeremy Miles, with 51.7% of the vote. He's expected to replace Mark Drakeford as the First Minister on Wednesday following a vote in the Senate, and says after 25 years of devolution, he remains committed to the cause.
Today, we turn a page in the book of our nation's history. A history that we write together. Not just because I have the honour of becoming the first black leader in any European country, but because a generational dial has jumped too. Like Ken and Jane, devolution is not something that I have had to get used to or to adapt to, or to apologise for. Devolution, Welsh solutions to Welsh problems and opportunities, is in...
Tory MPs have reportedly held secret talks to replace the Prime Minister with Penny Mordaunt as the new leader of the Conservatives. According to The Telegraph, a meeting's taken place between a group of right-wing Tories and MPs who support Ms Mordaunt in the previous two leadership elections. It comes after a week that saw former Tory Deputy Chairman Lee Anderson join the Reform UK party and Rishi Sunak rule out a general election in early May. The female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull has formally appealed against the decision to clear team principal Christian Horner of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but was suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry into the matter. Horner has been allowed to continue in his role. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. Motorists have been avoiding the M25 after the first ever planned daytime closure began late last night. Drivers have been warned to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11. It's been shut since 6 o'clock. It will be shut until 6 o'clock on Monday morning. An 11.5-mile diversion has been created to direct traffic along A roads. That's it for the moment, but you can get more on all of our stories by scanning the QR code on your screen to get GB News alerts, or you can go to our website for more. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. What the hell is going on with the press and the royal family? After the hullabaloo over Photogate, which involved a very badly edited photo by Princess Catherine, poor woman, the press went to town on her. Admittedly, it was full of obvious errors to the trained eye, but so what? For anyone who missed it, where have you been? On Mother's Day last Sunday, Princess Catherine issued what many thought was a heartfelt picture of her family. It was lovely. In attempting to practice her amateur photoshopping skills, she has caused uproar, an uproar that was enough to put anyone off photography for good. The picture was apparently taken by William and was meant to signify a happy Mother's Day to one and all, designed to quell the rumours. After all, we hadn't seen Catherine around for a while since the surgery, and this was meant to show that the Queen-in-Waiting was A-OK. Now, I can't really explain why the press this week was so curious, but the fascination has led to some people suggesting some sort of constitutional crisis. Come on, people, behave. It's just a badly edited picture. Just because Princess Charlotte's wrist didn't match her sleeve and her hair ended abruptly, or Louis's jumper didn't line up and his right hand was blurred. Catherine had a wonky zip and an out-of-focus hand and 3 airbrushed individual hairs. Her wedding ring was even missing. The background was dodgy. The only person who escaped Catherine's enthusiasm was Prince George. But just because of all of that and more, how have these people come up with the idea that there's some sort of constitutional crisis going on? Bless her heart, poor Catherine. Why should she ever want to try again? This reaction would put any aspiring student off photography for life. Frankly, I couldn't work out what all the fuss was about. In the meantime, Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, on the 4th anniversary of her so-called freedom fight, and just before the tribute to Diana, has launched her new lifestyle brand. Honestly, you couldn't make this up. We got to see a glimpse of her product empire 4 years to the day they flew to Canada in 2020 for privacy. It feels like longer. Apparently, products will include cookbooks, tableware, various butters and jams, placeholders, not using special precious metals, of course, all the useful, essential stuff. Seriously, most of us are fighting to stay afloat. The release date for all this rubbish overshadowed an award ceremony held in the name of the Princess of Wales. So, Meghan's back. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? It says some right-wing Tories are discussing whether to oust the Prime Minister. Oh, for goodness sake. The 5 families, the 5 fishes, the 5 flies, the 5... What's that restaurant called?
5 Guys.
5 Guys, yeah. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Should they oust him and replace him with the Leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt? At 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time. Royal biographer Angela Levin will be here with the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, didn't want to be left out of the controversy crippling the royal family, so decided to launch her new luxury brand right before her husband's virtually attending the memorial event for the late Princess of Wales. And then at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. Danielle Broadbent will be live in the studio. She'll be talking to us about the importance of a body positive mindset. I'll get that out there. You know when your teeth get stuck to the roof of the top of your mouth, that's what happened there. Very dry lips. That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. Or it could be the spirit of Meghan Markle coming to teach me a lesson.
Absolutely.
Glue her lips to her teeth to stop her from talking. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again my panel. Former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza and also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Well, I've obviously got to start with Lizzie Cundy on a royal story.
On the royals.
What the hell were people talking about? This one poor Catherine. All she's done is put out a picture, a genuine, heartfelt picture. What the hell was going on this week?
It was crazy. It was a storm in a media teacup. It really was. And look, Catherine, we know she's had surgery. She's been, hasn't been seen since December. So when, everyone saw this picture, they just went into a frenzy about it and then found 16 mistakes. As I said, Nana, I should have done the photoshopping for her. I'd have done a much better job. But look, everyone photoshops or does a bit of editing or filtering. Huge percentage on Instagram, I'm sure, do it. So does our Catherine. And please, can we leave her alone? Enough is enough.
I just felt I had to do that monologue to let people know that she's only human, leave her alone, this is just a photo. But some people were saying, she's getting a taste of what Meghan got. I don't think...
I don't come at it from that perspective. I mean, I think it was a bit odd that nobody in the palace spotted it, because unlike most people who are posting family snaps to Instagram, there's a whole press office team there to vet these photographs before they go there. So I think particularly in the context of the internet being its silly self and social media with all these daft rumours about what may or may not have happened to her, I think that because of that, it's not a constitutional crisis, but people can there was a sort of, people get head of steam up about it. It wasn't the best way of dealing with that to put a Photoshop picture out, so somebody should have spotted it. But as you say, she's only human.
Yeah, but the sentiment was to say Happy Mother's Day. It was lovely. And why can't we just respect that and leave her alone? I just think it's absurd, the way this press frenzy's gone about it.
But do you think then, having seen what happened there, because Meghan sort of said, the press this and that kind of almost makes it feel like Meghan was right about what she was saying about the press? Because we watched it, we seen it and thought, what the hell's going on?
No, because I think there's a particular context to this. And look, a robust press, the royal family are not immune from criticism. One of the things that really annoys me about Harry is this idea that we should just all be, doffing our caps and going, thank you very much, kind sir. Actually, when Queen Victoria, it wasn't because of an operation, but, when she went into mourning for several years when Prince Albert died, people were, she was a total figure of fun, and the press was much more scurrilous in the cartoons that were circulating in the press than anything we would see now. So, you've got to, we're not going back to a deferential age, and they need to learn that.
But I think Meghan now relaunching herself. I mean, she's had me...
Have you not ordered anything?
She's more comebacks.
I was expecting some merch.
Yeah, I mean, Meghan's had more comebacks than the Bay City Rollers, and and I just think her timing is quite insensitive, and it's deliberate, and she can change her name on the Instagram, her website, as many times as she wants, but she still is the same person, and she still did what she did to the royal family
and to her
people and to her own family, indeed. And the public won't forget that. That's the thing. And I'm sorry, you want to watch this, her stirring a bowl as if she does any cooking,
letting friends know it would never have happened to me,
and walking around in a ball ground to some jazz music. I mean, seriously, I just think the timing is really wrong. It's very insensitive, especially what's going on with Catherine. And I'm sorry, Meghan, you're never going to be top dog.
If you were Harry, you'd be very upset by the timing as well, because obviously, Harry...
I don't think he would.
Well, he's always talks about his mother so much that he's just lost all. You think he's just lost all?
He's completely lost touch of reality. I think
that's possible.
I just don't really get what's going on there. He's really angry still. He's really bitter from what I can see, and he blames the press heavily for all of this. Yeah. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon.
And it's worrying that the two brothers, it looks very unlikely they're going to ever make peace when they were so opposite. They can't even be on the same room, even when Harry is going on virtually. It's a real worry. This family is split in two, and I'm afraid Meghan doesn't seem to care. She just is me, and
she doesn't care.
Absolutely, it's going to be the law of diminishing returns, isn't it? I mean, the more she's going to, in a sense, as she's so isolated from the royal family, the magic stardust of the royal family will eventually wear off, and she'll be somebody they don't speak to, and even her lure to the Americans, which we've seen is already decreasing, may go over time.
That was the way, but you see, her link with the royals, being a royal, was what's made her interesting. Yeah. And now she hasn't got that. Are we really wanting to know what she cooks in that bowl?
I'm not sure if her career had ended on Suits, I'm not sure that anybody would be buying a beautiful pot of strawberry jam, the old English strawberry jam.
It's almost like jams and butters, and I'm waiting for scones and next.
Please.
She might like our afternoon tea. She didn't live here long enough that she experienced too many of them.
Using very British things, butters and things
but she doesn't like Britain very much.
But maybe she should have invited her own father over for some, British tea.
She's not going to be inviting us over, though, is she?
It's odd, though. Look, I get it when people don't want to speak to members of their family. It's totally, But if your member of your family is ill,
yes, that makes a difference.
For me, like if even though there's certain elements of my family,
we all got
way, but. I'm still there if they're...
I agree. I think that's what's peculiar.
Really.
But I've got to say, she can call this whatever she wants. I tell you what, I won't be watching.
No.
I think I'll stick with my normal brand of strawberry jam.
Yeah, well,
it'd be cheaper.
I don't eat jam. It's too sweet and sticky and sicky.
Strong views.
Right. So what do you think? GBviews at GBnews.com. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, Royal Roundup with Angela Levin. We'll get the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, is the Duchess of Sussex feeling left out? Is as Meghan Markle gets herself involved in controversy, even more controversy. Next, though, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? I've got a poll up on X right now asking you that very question. Should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the next general election? Send me your thoughts, gbviews at gbnews.com, or tweet me at gbnews.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
I've got an idea. I think that all 30-year-olds should be given £10,000 from the banks of baby boomers. We've got a situation in this country now where millennials are the first generation in modern times expecting to be poorer than their parents. We, as 30-year-olds like me, are half as likely to own a house as people my age 30 years ago. In fact, the cost of a home in Britain compared to average incomes has as big a gap today as it did, wait for it, in the 1860s. It is a Dickensian situation.
Now, I'm sorry about the housing crisis for your generation.
You're not, though, are you?
No,
because you're profiting from it.
I'm profiting from it. Don't be ridiculous.
The house prices now, compared to that period.
If this is the case, Benjamin...
Have incomes gone up that fast?
To penalise and punish the elderly when they have worked all their lives to put into the system and say it's your fault, whingy, whiny, we're going to be envious...
But Linda, we're being punished.
No, well, by the politics, so be the change you want to see in the world.
Taxes,
I
am actually, and I'm about to tell you about the change I want to see in the world.
Are you good? As long as you stop whining about it.
I'm going to stop whining about it, but we are being taken advantage of at the moment to profit, to help the old. Most of taxpayers' money is spent in two departments, the NHS, so the health department, and the Department for Work and Pensions. Those departments disproportionately serve the older population. Now, I've got no issue with that, but let's not pretend that it is not young working people that is paying for the public services for old people. So actually, we are having it hard, and I just look at the future, and we see a future of perpetually higher taxes to pay for this increasing ageing population, a shrinking labour force, and you're here saying we've got nothing to worry about.
The young stop voting for mass immigration parties. The young stop voting for parties that don't build houses.
Immigrants actually pay taxes, pensioners don't.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, just coming up to 19 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Don't forget, you can also download the GB News app and check out what's going on the channel. I'll read some of those emails from the monologue, but now it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? And this is as the right wing of the Conservative Party are plotting to replace him. The Five Flies or the Five Families or the Five Eyes, whatever they call themselves now. They want to replace Rishi Sunak with Penny Mordaunt. They think that she'd appeal much more to swing voters and reclaim some of the ground lost to Sir Keir Starmer and, of course, the Labour Party. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? Before I do that, though, here are some emails from the monologue. I'll probably get in trouble because people are... Oh, here we go. I can understand... This is Shelley on Kate. She said, I can understand all you say about Catherine, but she isn't wearing her rings, and this is causing controversy. It's true, but maybe she airbrushed them out in the photoshopping thing she might not have noticed. Margaret on Rishi, well, that's another one who'll be a rubbish leader because the MPs did such a good job not electing Rishi Sunak and ignoring Tory membership. They're going to do it again. The members want Suella or Boris, not someone who doesn't know what a woman is. Very true. And Pat on the Royals, she says Catherine, who does everything right, gets into trouble for a photo. It's so sad. She should be left alone to get on with her family. She's a human being like us. I wish her well. Same here, here. And Dave on the Royals said the Princess of Wales is loved by all those who value this country, its values and way of life. Absolutely. And you know what? They love her in America as well, which is really, really good. Right, so let's see. What do you think, then, with regard to the election? So joining me now is Reform Party's Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP Stephen Pound, and political commentators Peter Spencer and Benedict Spence. The two S's, be warned, they're here. Right, so what do you think? I'm going to start with you. Benedict Spence, do you think that perhaps the Tories are right to look to replace their leader?
I thought for a very long time it would have been a mistake to replace Rishi Sunak, but I think that it's kind of got to a stage in the last couple of months where one has to sort of weigh up which is the greater damage, risk getting rid of him now or keeping him. I think the major obstacle for the last couple of months was always, well, who else would you get? Who else is actually a better option? Now I think that he's actually plumbed sufficient depths that it almost doesn't matter if there aren't sort of any immediately better candidates on the basis that simply Rishi Sunak himself, I think, is just projecting an image of incompetence. I think everything that he and his team put out there, along with Jeremy Hunt, whether it's a part of the budget or it's a sort of a social policy or an immigration policy, nothing is received particularly positively. People don't trust. I think people don't trust the Tory party generally, but they certainly don't trust him to actually follow through with any of his pledges. So then the question does have to be: are you actually risking that much damage getting rid of him at this late stage? Whereas actually, what you need, even if you're not anticipating getting in a much better leader than him, what you need is a team going into number 10 that is ready to fight an election. I don't think Rishi Sunak and his team currently are.
Interesting. But incompetence, I think a lot of them all are. Simon Danczuk, what are your thoughts?
Oh, the anti-Conservative feeling in the country is substantial, to say the least. It doesn't matter who's leading the Conservatives into this general election. They are going to be treated very badly by the electorate. People want rid of them. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They see this government as having failed on immigration, on the economy, on defence, on Walker. It's just utter failure. I mean, it doesn't matter whether they replace Sunak or not. That's the truth of the matter.
Do you think? Peter Spencer?
The idea of replacing Rishi Sunak at this stage, foisting upon the electorate yet another Tory leader, I mean, I have to say, as they tend to say within the sounds of Bow Bells, You having a laugh, me old China? I mean, look, I can perfectly well see why they would like a different leader, because Rishi Sunak, to my mind, played an extremely good hand when he was the Chancellor with the furlough scheme, Dishy Rishi and all that. But it's a different skill set when you are the Prime Minister. For that, you need political savvy, and that much has manifestly been lacking. I mean, the two prime examples are Frank Hester and the Lee Anderson, I do beg your pardon.
What did you call him?
Well, sorry, it's private eye. They call him Leanderthal for some kind of reason. Anyway, letting that pass, yeah, I'm sure they would love to have a new leader, but I'm reminded when even thinking about it at this stage of those folk and that orchestra playing on the deck of the Titanic. Maybe if you have a jolly sing-song, the ship won't sink, but maybe there are fairies on the end of the garden. I don't think so.
Stephen Pound.
Yeah. Hi, Nana. Look, politically, I've got no skin in the game. But as someone who actually cares about this country, the answer has to be no, because what would it do to our international reputation, and above all, our international competence and our international stability? The money markets would actually flee from us, rushing even faster than people onto the lifeboats of the Titanic. If we had yet another period of infighting, of ferrets in the sack, it would be the worst possible message we can send to the money markets. The more interesting question is, where are the Conservatives going, and what are the Conservatives for? Come what may, there's going to be a major change, whether it's after the election. I hope it won't be before the election for the sake of the country. But the Conservatives have to decide, are they ever going to be Conservative again, or have they ceded that ground to, dare I say it, Simon Chanchuk and a few of his friends? Because it looks to me as an outsider here, and someone, as I said, who doesn't have skin in the game, as if the Conservatives, the traditional Conservatives, have given up and gone home, and they've left the playing field to another team.
Well, I think you make a good point as well about the embarrassment on the world stage. I mean, people must be watching and go, oh, not again, putting their hands and their head in their hands and thinking, what the hell has happened to the United Kingdom? But Simon, he mentioned you, and I actually think that the Conservatives will end up being the third political party.
Well, yeah, the Reform Party are currently in third position, which is quite incredible. We're on 12, 13, 14% in the opinion polls, doing very well. The Conservatives are down to 18%. It's quite feasible that we overtake them at some stage, and we've only been around for 3 or 4 years as a political party. So we are making... people want change. That's the reality of it. They want people in government who are going to challenge on these big issues, and that's not what the Conservatives have done. As I said earlier, it's been one failure after another. And the fact that Lee Anderson has come over to Reform is significant. We've now got our first Reform MP. It looks like he could well win Ashfield at the general election. That's what some of the polling's suggesting. He's exceptionally popular. People are joining the party in droves. So it's looking pretty good for Reform. We could become the second party at this rate.
Benedict Spence, you were saying that they might as well change leader. You've been umming and ahhing about it. But I think Stephen Pound makes a good point that it's the embarrassment as well on the world stage. Whilst, and what policies and politics will be getting on with whilst they're doing this? Because in the meantime, the NHS and all the things that we, the public, are dealing with, this is not going to be relevant to them.
I mean... when we're talking about the world stage, A, none of those people actually vote for who the Prime Minister is, and B, it's not as if we've been doing a particularly good job of reassuring our allies on the world stage that we're a particularly well-functioning country as things currently stand. You know, we're on the brink potentially of another war, a further escalation of the war in Europe, and we're one of the only countries in Europe cutting funding for our armed forces. What does the international community make of that? And that's the government that we've currently got. I mean, look, I understand with the arguments that people are saying you don't want to sort of spook the horses, you know, it would be electoral suicide to have another change right now. But things have got that bad that actually, if you keep Rishi Sunak, you are basically accepting that you're going to lose very badly if you keep Rishi Sunak. Because it's not just about Sunak himself, it's about the team that he puts around him. I'd argue almost that's as important. It's about the messaging. Rishi Sunak, you know, as was pointed out, he played a pretty good job when he was Chancellor. He was able to do it, but he was not able to perhaps transfer from the one job to the other particularly well. So I think that's as much an important thing. I wouldn't say that there's any point in changing from Rishi Sunak to Penny Mordaunt. I would say that that's still the major barrier to changing leader, is saying, well, who else is actually better? But that's not to say that it would be necessarily a bad thing. It's about finding somebody who would sort of grab the imagination of the voters, perhaps tempt people from going over to Reform. But as we saw actually at a number of the previous by-elections, it's not so much about people going to Reform, it's about Tory voters just not turning out to vote at all. You just need to motivate them to come out and vote in the first place.
Well, I think it's more about people who's going to grab the helm of the ship as it goes over the cliff. They're just deciding who's going to lead this thing to the floor. Stephen Pound.
Yeah, I have to say, in my naval days, very seldom did a ship go over the cliff. But you know,
well, this one is. This one literally
the
is.
reality is. What killed Liz Truss and what damn nearly killed the British economy was the international credit agencies. It was Standard & Poor's, it was Moody's, it was people like that. They had a look at us and they said, "You are no longer a safe financial bet. We're no longer going to invest in British gilts. We're no longer going to invest in the pound sterling as a reserve currency." That is the real problem. I mean, Benedict's right. That he's always right. He knows that. But when he says that, the people around the world don't have votes, well, to be honest, a lot of them do actually. But the reality is it's the credit agencies who do. And it would be the worst possible message. The United Kingdom would not be open for business, would not be capable, would not be stable and financially sound if we had yet another round. And would we just have one? Would we then go on? Would Penny Mordaunt then be attacked? Heaven knows. Look, let's get through to the election. Let's find out what happens. Let's let the cards fall where they may, and then let the Conservatives have a long, quiet, calm period of re-evaluation. They need to decide once and for all, what are they for? Because, believe you me, the message is not coming across at the moment.
Peter Spencer.
I mean, it's quite interesting picking up on the Penny Mordaunt thing, because the Leader of the Commons as she is, she's regarded as a moderate, and the current punt, I could use my word carefully here, is that she is, pardon me, gentlemen, excuse je. Anyway, letting that pass. I mean, she is apparently being mooted by those on the right of the party, which does seem to add up to something like something to draw the party back into a one-party rather than a two-party status that it currently seems to occupy. But I have to say again about changing leader at this stage, it would be all very well in this parallel universe, but as things are, quite frankly, it's la la.
And obviously there was no offence within those words at all. Simon Danchuk, final to you.
Well, yeah, I'm puzzled that they're coalescing around Penny Mordaunt. I just don't understand that. She's not particularly high profile. The public don't really know who she is. She hasn't really held high office. So
she had the sword, though, didn't she?
She did indeed. Exactly. That's what people remember her by, and that's about it, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Well, Machiavelli held the dagger.
Was it a dagger? It was a dagger, not a sword. Well, so finally then... So finally, then, let's ask you that question then. So should the Tory party change their leader before the general election? Simon Danchuk?
No.
No. Peter Spencer?
Bye-bye, Rishi. Bye-bye, Tories.
So, yes or no?
Oh, I think that means no, doesn't it?
That means no. Benedict Spence?
Not to Penny Mordaunt, but beyond that, why not?
And Stephen Pound?
No.
No, they shouldn't. Well, listen, thank you so much for your thoughts. That was the former Labour MP Stephen Pound, Simon Danchuk from the Reform Party, Peter Spencer, political commentator, and Benedict Spence, a political commentator. Thank you for your thoughts. What do you think? Should they? Is it worth it? Will it make any difference? I don't know. GBViews at gbnews.com. Tweet me at GBnews. Coming up, we will continue with the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking you that question. Should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, former Labour advisor Matthew Larser and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy. Still to come, this week's difficult conversation with body-positive influencer Danielle Broadbent. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It's 4:31. Good afternoon, I'm Aaron Armstrong. Two of the UK's biggest supermarket chains, Tesco and Sainsbury's, have been hit with technical issues. Thousands of shoppers won't get their online groceries delivered as a result. Both have said their systems suffered IT problems, meaning they cannot fulfil online orders. Sainsbury's say some shops have also been affected due to contactless payment failures, and they're working hard to fix the issue. Argos, which is owned by Sainsbury's, is also experiencing issues with orders and deliveries. We'll have more on this as we go through the afternoon. Vaughan Gething is set to become the next First Minister of Wales after winning the Labour leadership election. Mr Gething, who will become the first black leader of any European country, beat his only rival, Jeremy Miles, with 51.7% of the vote. He's expected to replace Mark Drakeford as First Minister on Wednesday, following a vote in the Senate. Drivers have been avoiding the M25 after the first ever planned daytime closure. It began late last night. People have been warned to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11. It will remain closed until 6 o'clock on Monday morning. An 11.5-mile diversion's being created to direct traffic along A roads. And the female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull team has formally appealed against the decision to clear the team principal, Christian Horner, of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but was then suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry. Horner was allowed to continue in his role. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. Well, for the latest on our story, sign up to GB News Alerts, scan that QR code on your screen, or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. Coming up, royal biographer Angela Levin will be live in the studio with the latest from behind the palace walls in my royal roundup. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the next election? I've got a poll up right now on X asking you that very question. What do you think? Get in touch, let us know your thoughts. gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. Cast your vote now.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Is a debate on gender really a far-right issue?
Far right. I'm so bored of that phrase, you know what I mean? Like, anyone who talks about, anyone who acknowledges that there are two sexes is suddenly far right, because that's what Hitler and Mussolini were all about. This question from Shirley is, of course, about Labour. They've been accused of being undemocratic because they pressured a pub into cancelling a debate, and this debate features Kelly J. Keane, who's been on this show a couple of times, and she's a campaigner, and she was just on the panel, and then they got a letter saying that they couldn't do it because Kelly J. Keane apparently attracts far-right groups. Now, they've tried this trick before, but because some awful, ghastly neo-Nazi types turned up near to an event that she was holding in Australia, they kind of tried to blame that on her and suggest that the two were the same thing. They weren't. That was an opportunistic group turning up to... They're not... Neo-Nazis aren't pro-feminist. They're not pro an event called Let Women Speak. That's just ridiculous.
New Zealand's TV blurred her touching her zip because they said that her touching her zip was a far-right dog whistle because she's making that symbol.
Yeah, but she wasn't making the symbol, she was just adjusting a zip.
Yeah, and also, this isn't a far-right symbol.
I mean, that was incredible because she obviously wasn't making that symbol anyway. She was just adjusting a top. But this New Zealand news channel blurred out the hand so that they could pretend that it was some horrible ghastly... Yeah. I mean, this is stuff, isn't it?
She's talked about having voted Labour in the past. She's so not far-right.
But also, even if she were right-wing, which she isn't, why would they be banning a panel where there's a discussion about one of the most important issues of our day? What are Labour playing at here?
They're anti-democratic, aren't they? They're just kind of playing whack-a-mole with things they don't like. I think maybe I'll write to the pub and say I do want to see Kelly J. Keane there.
Yeah, but they won't listen to you if you say that, will they? Because you've got the unfashionable opinion, Chris.
Well, and the unfashionable workplace.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm Nana Akua. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the election? It's as right wing of the Conservative parties are plotting to replace him with Penny Mordaunt, potentially. They think that she'd appeal much more to the sort of midline sort of voters who believe that a trans woman is a woman. So joining me now to discuss, my panellists, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also Matthew Laza. Matthew Laza, I'm going to come to you first of all immediately. What do you think?
Yeah, so should they do it? I think if they switch to Penny Mordaunt, I think that my lot, I think, would think that they might save 20 or 30 seats. I think Penny talks human. Whatever you think about her detailed policies on issues, I think she has a kind of warmth, which you saw when she was first an MP and she took part in Splash, that reality TV show with Tom Daley.
Did she?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. So she, she's got a kind of... She's relaxed in a way that, frankly...
That went down like a lead balloon.
It wasn't a major success of the series, yes, absolutely. What I mean is, compared to the kind of stiffness that you've got with Rishi and Keir... And, I mean, can you imagine the debates at the moment, Rishi, Keir and Ed Davey? It's going to be a pretty sort of grey affair. So, I mean, I think that they would do a little bit better with Penny Mordaunt. It's not going to save them. And, of course, on the downside, they look ludicrous. What would we be on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Would it be the 6th?
I've lost count. No, it's the fourth Tory leader. I mean, look,
it would be the fifth. Yeah.
But she would be the fifth.
Is that
since the election?
It would be the fifth if we had.
She would be the fifth. Yeah.
So since the election, which is what, 4 years?
Since the election, it would be the.
She would be the fifth if that were the case. But look,
I'll get my fingers out.
Look. Can I just say? Come on, you're better at that at counting.
Yeah.
Penny is an MP. She's not a miracle worker. It's time for Rishi to just wave that little white handkerchief and just realise defeat. I'm sorry, he doesn't listen. He's spineless. He's a jellyfish in a Prada suit. He doesn't make decisions. I mean, look what happened with the donor, Frank Hester. He lets stories, bad press, go on for 5 days. He doesn't do any damage limitation. He lets it rock on because he doesn't save.
Particularly if he could have given the money back and got his missus to write a cheque.
Do you think he should have given the money back?
Absolutely, I think he should have given the money back.
Diane Abbott said some terrible things.
Absolutely, and that's why she hasn't been let back in the Labour Party.
But that's the other thing. We've got Keir Starmer. They haven't done anything about Diane Abbott's
she's still
letter.
not in the Labour Party.
And Starmer, you've got more U-turns.
She was suspended.
And the thing is, with this election, people usually vote for hope. I remember when Tony Blair got in, there was like a carnival feeling when he got in, first of all.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that when he left.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. Little did we know.
That was only from Gordon Brown.
God, a war criminal. But Starmer, people are just so disillusioned with the Tory party. They're going in thinking, well, what else can we do? It's now time for reform. It's time for Nigel Farage to come back. We need a decisive leader.
Well, you say that, but some people... I mean, I'm trying to find some defence of the Tory party, but the thing is, even when you bring somebody on who's supposedly meant to represent them, even they say... OK.
When you talked about when Tony left, by the time you got to 2010, the Labour government was tired and you knew that the end was in sight, and all of those of us inside the Labour Party knew that. And I think the Tories know that now, which is why, as you say, nobody will defend them fully, because they're fighting like rabbits in a sack, looking forward to... ferrets in a sack, looking forward to the... Is it cats?
In a sack.
I'm from the north, it's ferrets up north.
Is it?
Aye. You don't have them down here. You're too posh for them.
I'm Geordie as well, aren't we?
I'm feeling left out here.
But, you're definitely not from the north.
But can I... well, actually, my mother's from Southport. But the Tories,
in the north.
We have the biggest tax for 70 years. That lustre budget was dull. We were hoping there would be a big rabbit pulled out of the hat.
Which is why we need an election.
And the rabbit had run off into the field.
He's got 3 days to change his mind. By Wednesday, he can change his mind.
Listen, look, the Conservatives are failing. They've been a massive failure for the last 14 years, full of lies. We've got this high immigration, highest tax. People want to change.
Absolutely, which is why they need the election now, because waiting another 9 months or changing the leader aren't going to make a difference. People need their say.
So, Matthew Laza, should they change the leader before the election?
They could do, but it won't help.
I'd like them to focus on domestic politics.
Ideally, yes, but I think it's too late for that.
Not at all. I'm sorry, and Penny, as I said, she's an MP. She's not a magician.
No, she's not, is she? And that's what they need. They actually need a miracle.
They do.
Soothsayer would be more useful to them. But if you just joined us, welcome aboard. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. My panel were discussing, but what do you think? This show is nothing without you and your views. So let's welcome our Great British Voice, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Today, should we head over to Bristol? Let's have a chat with Lee Harris. Lee Harris, the Tory party, they're talking about Another leader. What do you think?
I know. It's crazy. It's a bit like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic now, Nana. I mean, we've been discussing this for a long time, haven't we? I mean, one thing is for certain, the Tories are going to get annihilated. And in my view, Rishi Sunak is an untrustworthy, weak, spineless, useless, backstabbing liar, and he's got to go.
Well, don't mince your words.
I laughed out loud today, a Times article I read today, Nana. It said that some cabinet ministers are no longer convinced that Rishi Sunak is the right PM to lead the Tories into the next election. I mean, no longer convinced. I found this utterly staggering. These ministers clearly have the political instincts of a house brick. They're so out of touch. It's embarrassing. I mean, you do not need to be a political expert or a Tory insider to know that the Conservatives are currently on a path to electoral oblivion. If they do nothing and leave Sunak in place, they will be lucky to retain 100 MPs at the next election. So why not roll the dice, get rid of hopeless Sunak? And if they're going, especially if they're going to get wiped out anyway, and with all this talk about Penny Mordaunt tipped as a replacement, Penny's great at the dispatch box, but she's really weak on woke issues and the culture war. And it would just be more of the same Labour light, out of touch, woke nonsense, which is one of the biggest complaints about the Tories and why they're losing so many voters. Just to finish on this, if the Conservatives want any hope of minimising the damage, or dare we dream, Nana, actually beating the Labour Party, they need a true Conservative who is a strong leader and a fighter. And I think that has to be Suella Braverman. We need a risk taker. No. We need someone who's not trying to speak their mind.
Lee.
But you're right, yeah, I mean, I just think throw the dice anyway.
They should get on with running the country and roll the dice for an election, because whoever's in front of that ship is still going down the cliff. I'm sorry. Lee Harris is lovely to talk to you. He's that great British voice. That is, of course, Lee Harris. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, so what do you think? Should they vote? Should they get a new leader? Well, stay tuned, though, because on the way next, my next great British debate is, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? But next, my weekly Royal Roundup with Royal biographer Angela Levin.
On fine form, Lee, wasn't he? He was...
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So a cloudier afternoon for most of us, with rain very much on its way across the UK. This all due to an area of low pressure moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. So those cloudier skies across much of the UK and some heavy rain for Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England that will push its way into parts of Scotland through this evening, turning particularly heavy across southern areas and even some snow for the hills. There'll be a brief drier interlude across the southern half of the UK before further rain pushes its way north and eastwards into the early hours of Sunday morning, leaving a very mild night, lows of only around 10 or 11 degrees across much of England and Wales. Across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, a bit of a chillier start to Sunday and some brighter skies, so some sunshine as we go through Sunday morning. Further south across England and Wales, once that rain clears its way eastwards, there'll be some sunshine developing here too, particularly as we head into the afternoon. However, there will be some showers bubbling up, and these could turn particularly heavy across the Midlands. Another very mild day, temperatures widely above average for the time of year, with highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Monday starts a little drier again for most of us. A band of rain slowly pushes its way eastwards through Monday morning, leaving a dry and bright afternoon for most of us. Plenty of sunshine on offer and temperatures still remaining above average for the time of year. It'll be a changeable rest of the week with further interludes of rain and some drier spells, and those temperatures staying above average.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela, it's been a busy royal week, hasn't it?
It's been a very, very busy week.
Oh, my goodness, yes. So talk to me about what are the main things? Of course, Meghan's released this thing. What's going on?
Yeah, I'll do that a bit later.
Whatever order you like.
Yeah. I think what we need to understand now is that there is a war going on. There's a war going on between Meghan and Harry and the rest of the royal family. And with the Sussex squad, they're jumping on whenever there's anything that they can actually destroy or overcome. So now they know that Catherine has been quite ill, so they come up with things that are really unpleasant and nasty, and people are blaming her for everything. So what if a picture isn't quite right? So what? She doesn't happen to have a wedding ring on. But there's a very, very nasty tray that's going on about that, which is really very serious. You can see that Catherine has had much more attack than King Charles, who also won't explain exactly what's been wrong with him. I think people are entitled to keep that. We don't own them. Obviously, they can say something, but it's really malicious. I think it's incredibly bad. And the irony of it is the hypocrisy of Meghan and Harry.
So are you saying that they're behind some of this
yes, I am saying that. I am saying that.
Do you have evidence of that? Or?
Well, I have very strong inclinations about that and
so
the way they behave. Yeah, my views. And, you know, to talk to the women's... she was with a women's discussion a few weeks ago, and she said, you know, what matters is to understand people through your action, to be very kind. And very that. They're not being very kind. They're not. And I think for her to have have her new podcast, or not another podcast, to have her new act of starting a whole life as a cooking guru. Just at the time when it's about Diana's charity is absolutely terrible. Now, it says two things. One, Harry now that don't feel so close to his mother. When I was with him, he was always feeling that his mother was with him, helping him. Perhaps now he doesn't think that.
Well, I think he feels like he's transferred to Meghan. She's taken that role.
Yes.
But they would argue that this is 4 years to the day that they had their freedom and left the UK.
Yes, but that's a poor thing to say. That's not what's important. What's important is Diana's awards. And the fact that perhaps Harry doesn't have a say in anything what Meghan's doing now. And she's coming up with a regal sort of A&R for the title American, whatever it is, ridiculous nonsense name. And to... that it's all gone, that it's all perfect for her. Well, actually, you can't do anything with that first page. Nothing's happening for a few weeks. So it's just to tell you. So she didn't need to do it on that day. It wasn't something that had been prepared for ages.
So what she's released is just like a one page? There's
one
nothing there
page, yes.
on the day? Or
no,
pretty much...
no. Nothing. That's going to happen in a month or so.
So there's nothing there, just one page launched. You can't around about the same time.
You can't buy anything. You can't. You can put your name down to receive information, but it's nothing is there yet. So the thing is to do it when everybody's down, when the King is unwell, when Catherine's unwell, when William is very stressed, and you can actually make a big impression and you can win. You can show them that they are better, they are more organised, and anything they can do better. I think it's absolutely dreadful. And the fact that Harry could give in to that and spend, talking where he was in skiing to the people who've won the awards, I thought was absolutely appalling. It is very tragic, actually. I think it's very, very sorry and very sad. And that the two brothers don't want to be anywhere near each other is very upsetting. But there it is. I think you have to understand that you've got real enemies there. And all the sort of, we're coming to London 1 week because we want to get more popular, means they want to come to London so they can sell their goods. The jam, the tablecloths. The butter, all those things.
Who wants the things they're just standard general
things they've broken
things
a promise they made to the late Queen. Which is terrible. She said you can't use the royal titles if you want to make commercial gain. And that's what they've done. So it's a huge insult. It's even worse than the dreadful curtsy that Meghan did in the Netflix programmes about them. And that was very rude. That was extremely nasty and spiteful, especially with the silly voice that she put on. And this is even worse because they're trying to make money on the back of the royal family.
Well, that's all they've ever been doing, isn't it?
That is all that they've ever been doing. But I think when you're being totally commercial and selling all these things so that they have loads of money, she probably will get a lot of money. I don't know if it will be so as popular as the TIG, but I do think that people will buy the stuff from her because it will be very expensive and it will be something you can show off and be proud of. But I do think that there's no kindness there, there's no sympathy. There's just pretense and acting. And I think the royal family can't do anything yet, and that's what they're taking advantage of. I think it's a really serious attack.
Well, listen, Angela Levin, thank you so much for
Thank you.
That is the brilliant Angela Levin, royal biographer. She wrote Prince Harry's biography. It is just terrible what's happened to him. Well, listen, stay tuned. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. For this week's difficult conversation, Danielle Broadbent will be live in studio to talk about body positivity. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, online and on digital radio. Stay tuned, loads more to come in the next hour, so don't go anywhere.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So it's been a cloudy and wet afternoon for many of us, all due to an area of low pressure that's been moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and will push its way north and eastwards overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. This will bring some heavy rain and has already brought some heavy rain, particularly to parts of southern Scotland. We could even see some snow across the hills, and overnight and into the early hours of Sunday, some further heavy rain pushes up from the southwest, affecting parts of England and Wales. Under all that cloud and rain, it'll be a very mild night, temperatures not dropping much below 10 or 11 degrees. But further north, there will be some brighter spells, and that will allow temperatures to drop into the low single figures. So a chilly start for Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, with some sunshine widespread across these regions in the morning. Through the afternoon, though, that band of rain pushes its way eastward, so some sunshine developing for much of England and Wales later as well. There will be some showers bubbling up through the afternoon. They could be quite heavy in places, but another very mild day. Temperatures as high as 16 or 17 degrees across the south, and even for Scotland we could see in the double figures. Monday, a band of rain situated across the UK pushes its way eastwards, leaving a drier day for most of us. Plenty of sunshine through the rest of the morning, but for Northern Ireland, turning much cloudier as we head into the afternoon with that heavy rain arriving. It does then remain unsettled through much of next week, with temperatures widely above average for the time of year, perhaps 16 or 17.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've got cash, treats and a spring shopping spree to be won in a great British giveaway. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
Affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. Coming up, this week's difficult conversation, I'll be joined by broadcaster and body mindset champion Danielle Broadbent, who's been on a remarkable journey. Stay tuned to find out more. Then for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? But first, let's get your latest news.
Very good evening to you. It is 5 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Two of the UK's biggest supermarket chains, Tesco and Sainsbury's, have been unable to deliver groceries because of technical issues. Sainsbury's has had to cancel the vast majority of its online orders. Both have said their systems suffered IT problems, with some Sainsbury's stores also affected due to contactless payment failures. Argos and Habitat, both owned by Sainsbury's, are also experiencing issues with orders and deliveries. Our reporter, Theo Chikomba, has more.
Thousands of customers across the UK who are expecting to have their deliveries arrive today from Sainsbury's and Tesco's haven't been able to due to IT technical difficulties. Now, Sainsbury's say an overnight update to their system caused issues today for those who are expecting to have their deliveries arrive today. And Tesco went on to say that they're having technical difficulties today, which mean many of their customers who were expecting to receive their orders today won't be doing so. A vast majority of them won't be getting them today, and they're hoping that the situation will be solved by tomorrow so those customers can get what they've ordered.
Vaughan Gething is set to become the next First Minister of Wales after winning the Labour leadership election. Mr Gething, who will become the first black leader of any European country, won a narrow contest with 51.7% of the vote. His only rival, Jeremy Miles, got 48.3%. He's expected to replace Mark Drakeford as First Minister on Wednesday following a vote in the Senate, and says after 25 years of devolution he remains committed to the cause.
Today, we turn a page in the book of our nation's history. A history that we write together. Not just because I have the honour of becoming the first black leader in any European country, but because a generational dial has jumped too. Like Ken and Jane, devolution is not something that I have had to get used to or to adapt to or to apologise for. Devolution, Welsh solutions to Welsh problems and opportunities, is in my blood.
Tory MPs are reportedly plotting to oust Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister and replace him with Penny Mordaunt. The Telegraph claims a group of right-wing Conservative MPs would like Ms Mordaunt to lead them into the next election in an effort to avoid, quote, catastrophic losses in the polls. Well, Ms Mordaunt previously ran for the Tory leadership contest in 2021 when Liz Truss was eventually selected. The move would mean a fourth leader of the party in just 5 years. The female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull has formally appealed against the decision to clear team principal Christian Horner of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but was then suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry. Horner was allowed to continue in his role when he was cleared of any wrongdoing. Motorists have been avoiding the M25 after the first ever planned daytime closure began late last night. Drivers have been told to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11. It will remain closed until 6 a.m. on Monday morning. An 11.5-mile diversion route's been created to direct traffic along A roads. GBNews Southeast of England reporter Ray Addison has been speaking to some of those affected.
Any improvement, there are going to be consequences which are what we're seeing, but as we see today, it's not bad.
No, I haven't got a problem. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Every day. Close it every day.
Why?
What? Well, because there's no traffic. We can go anywhere. My wife got to work in 15 minutes this morning.
Normally, you've got about 10 or 11 cars queuing up. Nothing. What has happened is that publicity is put out to people, don't travel, and they're not. And that's the point. So it's a success as far as I'm concerned.
I'm prepared for it. I make sure I don't have to go out in the car today. So, yes, I've noticed a steady stream of traffic both sides.
For the moment, but you can get more on all of our stories by scanning the QR code on your screen for GB News alerts, or go to our website, gbnews.com/alerts. Now, back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser and also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Still to come, my difficult conversation today is with broadcaster and body positive influencer Danielle Broadbent. So stay tuned for that. But for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? And this is as the NHS is set to introduce electric ambulances. Yeah, you know, they're coming. Reports say that they'll take up to 4 hours to charge and travel an average of 70 miles. Ridiculous. As ever, you can get in touch. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. So it's now time for this week's difficult conversation. Now, Danielle Broadbent, she's a body-positive mindset champion, a radio presenter and a top 10 podcast host. And after appearing on Channel 4's Naked Beach in 2019 to confront insecurities about her body image, Danielle embarked on a transformative journey a self-discovery. She struggled with weight gain due to an underactive thyroid after her second child. She battled feelings of inadequacy and social pressures to fit a certain mould. However, her experience on Naked Beach became a turning point, leading her to realise that the true change wasn't about altering her body, but transforming her mindset. And I'm very pleased to say that Danielle Broadbent joins me now. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I was sat listening to you then and thinking, yeah, I did that. That's me.
That. Well, there was more. There was so much more. I just stopped reading in the middle and thought, I'm just going to ask you myself. Because you've done so much, really, in such a kind of short space of time.
Yeah, it has been really short. I look back now and think, wow, that's really happened. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but a good one, a very positive one, and I'm proud of it.
So take me back to the birth of your second child, because you were saying you obviously put on weight to have the child, but before then, you were a pretty... What size were you? Because this was the big thing that...
Yeah, I mean, I've two children, Alicia and Mikey. When I, from having my first child, I had probably a comfortable size 10. And I bounced pretty much straight into a 10 to 12 after having Alicia. But just before I had Mikey, I discovered a few months before that I had an underactive thyroid before I, conceived, obviously. And it was just a very different recovery after having, childbirth, with just how my body healed and my mind, but as well the weight side of things. I just couldn't. I was so expecting to just, fly back into, my size 12 to 14 jeans then, but it just wasn't the case.
What were the symptoms for you for the underactive thyroid that made you think, oh, hang on, there's something wrong here?
Yeah, and it was going on for quite a while. And one thing about hypothyroidism is that sometimes you don't pick, it's not that obvious, but for me it really was. So my muscles were ripping, I'd turn over in bed and like the side of me, you'd feel, when you pull a muscle, it'd feel like that. Or I'd just be putting, jeans on and my arms would ache. I were a keen dancer, and I were doing like a bit, not boxing to fight people, but, just the fitness aspect of it, training at my local boxing gym. And I just couldn't keep up anymore, where I'd, fly through them workouts before. And it was the person that I were actually training with who said, I think you need a blood test, because this isn't like you. I was so tired, I was very emotional, my hair had thinned and my voices were really horsey, my face was puffy. And I'd not heard of hypothyroidism then. So, I didn't know what were wrong with me. I was really worried though. And and I went for a blood test and it just went from there.
Really? So, and how many years ago was that?
So that will have been maybe 2009. 2009. And when I had the blood test, the doctor rang and he said, you need to come to the surgery straight away. And so I was thinking, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And when I got there, he said, you have a severe case of hypothyroidism and we need to get it under control now, because it is really dangerous.
Is
if it's
it?
Not, oh my gosh.
What are the implications for it? What?
If you don't treat it, if it goes unnoticed, it can lead to heart disease. If I wanted to have, any more children, it could lead to, you not being able to carry children anymore. It can lead to, cancer. It can lead to all sorts. But, the thyroid controls pretty much all your body. So your organs, your hair, your moods, absolutely everything. So it can lead you to being like mentally unstable if you don't control it.
God, it's so many things. It's interesting, isn't it? Lots of these things kind of attack us women, especially after you've given birth, during pregnancy. If you've got any autoimmune type conditions, they seem to... Pregnancy is so challenging, isn't it? And it can really change your body. So with this, it meant that you put on weight. How did you deal with that? Because you started off with size 10, 12, you got a bit bigger when you were pregnant, but now, to realise that your weight is gaining, how did you cope?
Well, one thing I will say is with the underactive thyroid, and many people watching will know that you can still lose weight, it's just a bit harder to.
Right.
So my mindset then was, I really need to be slim again. I can't do, it's being slim or it's pointless, I don't want to be anything else. So I really struggled with it. I did every diet going, from like shakes to like the big diet, well-known diets that are out there. And you know, it did work. It did work, but it just, you know, you'd go to, you know, get weighed on a Monday, and somebody who didn't suffer from a hypothyroidism would lose more weight than you. You know, you'd be there with your £2 and they'd be there with 6. So it's just a slower process, but it is achievable.
But then,
if you want to.
If you want to, and being slim isn't the be-all and end-all.
Oh,
anyway,
absolutely not. I mean, you know, obviously for health reasons, you know, I won't ever sit and promote being unhealthy, but I do think that you can only do that if you want to do it. You know, I won't allow anyone to say to me, well, you could really do with, you know, losing a bit of weight. That's my choice, you know, and at that point, though, I think society and the way, you know, I felt like it were... I wasn't going to be as successful in my job if I want thinner. I wasn't going to be selected for a promotion if I want thinner. I wasn't going to be as attractive if I want thinner. And then when I did Naked Beach, I actually realised that you know, I'm actually happier just going with the flow. And if I lose a few pounds, great. If I don't, fine.
Did you know what Naked Beach was all about when you were... I mean, it sounds pretty obvious. You're going to be on a beach naked. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I won, but... No, I didn't.
What is it? What's it about? Because I didn't see it, but I've, you know, read about it.
So, yeah, well... When I did the show, there were no title, because if I'd have known it were called Naked Beach, I'd never have done it. Never. But it was all a show about body confidence. So I was on as a girl who'd put on a bit of weight and were really unhappy with how I looked. But there were people there who you know, had breast cancer and had a breast removed, and there were people there with alopecia and loads of different things where people, you know, felt a bit inadequate in society. And the overall message were... There's a lot more going on in the world, and you as a person than what size dress you're wearing today, or you know, how short your hair is, or you know, the fact that you've had breast cancer and you've come through it. It's great. You know, we can reconstruct your breast, which obviously me sat here saying that is a really easy thing for me to say, but someone actually going through that, it's completely different. So it's how you feel inside, and there were, you know, mindset coaches there with us. Mine was Felicity Haywood, who's now one of my best friends, and it changed my life. You know, it's...
What about Natasha Devon?
Natasha Devon, wow, yeah. So Natasha Devon, I met Natasha in London, and we did therapy together, and wow, that was intense. Like, she made me address it. She had me looking in a mirror, like, tell me what you don't like about yourself. Why don't you like it? And you had to address things that you'd been... I didn't have a full-length mirror in my house for a lot of years. So to stand there and be like, oh, my God, you know, like... And why don't you like it? What don't you like? But why do you think that? You have to be accountable for them thoughts and explain to someone else who you don't really know that well the whys, and you haven't even addressed that yourself, really. So that was difficult, but, you know, it's a process. It was therapy, and looking back now, I'm grateful for it, you know, because I'd avoided so many things. Going swimming with my kids, you know, things that you can't ever get that time back. Life really is too short.
But since that, you've done plus-size modelling. You've done loads of stuff.
Yeah, I was determined after Naked Beach to, like, I didn't want anyone else to feel like I'd felt. So I went on a bit of a journey of encouraging, you know, women who, you know, you still can be a curvy girl and pretty. You still can be a curvy girl and successful at work and have relationships and be worthy of absolutely everything that everybody else can. You know, there's a lot worse things. There really is. So, yeah, I did go on a journey. I started a bit of a clothing brand at the time, which went really well. I then did a podcast in lockdown. I then went on to do motivational talks up and down the UK to women and men. You know, it's not just women who have underactive thyroids and have, you know, body image problems, you know, but it was nice to see some men in there, you know, because I think that men don't really acknowledge it like women do. And then, yeah, I started doing the radio. So it's completely been a 360 turn for me.
Well, you won an award, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I won an award, Ladies of the North, it's called. It's Simply Ladies Inc. A great woman called Karen that does that, and with a really inspiring story as well. And it was Inspirational Women Award, and I got the Unsung Hero. So, yeah, and that were a shock because I was nominated in 4 categories and I didn't even know about it. So to get nominated, you know, and know that you're actually making a difference and people are inspired by your story and inspired by what you've got to say is massive. You know, it's lovely.
Well, congratulations. You've done so much, really, and inspired so many people, which is very impressive. Talk to me about what you're currently doing. What's your main role at the moment? I know you're on radio.
Oh, yeah, so I obviously do the radio, which I love, but I'm also...
Where can people hear you on radio?
Oh, on radio. So I do Tuesdays BCB, Tuesday evenings, and I'm in talks with, I can't really say too much, a bigger station at the moment,
good.
but yeah. But I do recruitment as well. I do all sorts. I like to keep busy.
Yeah. So what would you say to anybody who's kind of going through something similar to you? So, you know, realising that for your condition, what was the condition?
Hypothyroidism. That life goes on, you know, if you are feeling really, really tired and really emotional for no reason and, you know, you're just noticing changes within your body, you know, your hair and your voice, please go and get a blood test because it's really serious. But please know as well that it's manageable. It really is manageable, and you can live a really normal life as long as, you know, get the medication, get controlled, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been really good to meet you and good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for
I wish you all the best. Are you still running your clothing range now?
No, I'm too busy now.
Too busy?
I'm too busy now. Maybe I'll go back to it at a later date, but not for now.
Well, listen, you look fabulous. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate that. So that's Danielle Broadbent, and she's been working through an incredible journey, influencing others and teaching acceptance and body positive mindset. So stay tuned. This is GB News. This is coming up to 19 minutes after 5 o'clock. On the way, my mini debate, I'm asking, are MPs doing enough to deserve a pay rise? I think they're getting about £93,000 or something. That's the next amount they'll be given. But next, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety?
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, I'm sure you have seen this video that went viral this week, and if you haven't, well, I think you're going to enjoy it. This is a firefighter leaning on a fence whilst watching a trapped driving instructor's car sink in 4 feet of floodwater. Looks very comfortable there, doesn't he? Just leaning against the fence.
Just chilling, just relaxing. Yeah, there were in fact 2 Essex fire and rescue crews, an ambulance and a police car parked near the sinking vehicle, but they wouldn't enter the water because they had to wait for specialist crews who were trained for the water depth.
Well, 2 people who weren't going to sit back and watch were these 2, Jack and Danielle Price, who took it upon themselves to rescue the submerged driver. And Danielle joins us now. Very good morning to you, Danielle, and you are a hero, an absolute hero. What happened in this video? Make sense of it for us.
So we were filming in the area for our YouTube channel, and we've seen the fire brigade come through. I was actually out at 5 o'clock in the morning with my husband, Jamie. We know it always happens there, as you can see, and it was clear. We've seen the fire brigade come through, we've followed them, and they're just standing around as if nothing's happened. In the clip, it says he's fine, he's on his phone, and then sort of walked away. But what they failed to realise is when my partner actually opened the door, as you can hear, he's on the phone to the emergency crew in panic, thinking he's going to sink. So we could not just sit there and watch. He's absolutely terrified.
Yeah, poor bloke. Well done you. Do you reckon this is health and safety gone mad?
It is, because although I do sympathise with them, they are so red-taped, but surely sort of common sense has to kick in as open the door.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 22 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? Paramedics fear that patients will be forced to wait longer for ambulances to arrive, which, as we know, the wait is already substantial. And all of this comes as the NHS is set to introduce electric ambulances, really raising concerns that the drive for net zero is being put above patient safety. Reports say that electric ambulances will take up to 4 hours to charge, and they will only travel an average of 70 miles. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? Well, I'm joined now by broadcaster and motoring journalist Danny Kelly, physicist and engineer Brian Catt, and Deputy Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford. Right, I'm going to start with you, Andrew Montford. Is this not a prioritisation of net zero over safety of patients, frankly?
It absolutely is. And it's not just the ambulances either. They're also looking at decarbonising the whole of the NHS operation, and they're also going to try and get NHS suppliers to decarbonise as well. And when you think about it, that's absolutely ridiculous. The NHS is full of materials that are made from hydrocarbons. So your plastic is everywhere in the NHS because it's cheap and hygienic and disposable. If we're going to say we're going to do without things like that, well, you know, it's going to be a disaster for patients. Where I live, it's 40 miles to the nearest hospital. So one of these ambulances can maybe come and pick me up, but the next call, well, it's going to have to recharge for 4 hours. I mean, this is an absolutely preposterous idea. I'm not quite sure how serious it actually is. They may well, in fact, be just doing this as a virtue signalling thing. And in fact, nothing or very little will happen. They will get an electric ambulance, and then they'll quietly forget about it and move on to other things. Let's hope so, because it's going to be really expensive and really dangerous.
All right, well let's go to Brian Catt, physicist and engineer. Is this a bad idea? Because I'm imagining that all the things within the ambulance will use electricity as well, because that's the only power source they've got in it. Isn't that a bit... Couldn't everything just suddenly switch off? I don't get why you would do that, but you tell me, Brian.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing is, of course, you have to keep the ambulance warm, especially for patients in shock, for instance. And the point there is that the engine does that for you, and it doesn't do that in an electric vehicle. But the other point is, no electric vehicle of this size is going to be net zero, because the cradle-to-grave total emissions from manufacturing.
Brian, could you move back a little bit away from your mic, and then because it's doing something odd. Sorry.
Is it echoing?
Yeah, it's echoing.
I am on.
Yeah, you are on. That is true.
Shall I?
That's better. That's much better.
I'll just try and sort it out. You can talk to somebody else, and I'll shut up.
No, you sound good when you're saying that. You're fine. But let's go to Danny Kelly. Danny Kelly.
It's a mind-bendingly stupid proposal, Nana. They have energy-zapping features on ambulances, like hydraulic wheelchair lifts. They have nighttime heaters for the patients in the back in the winter and air conditioning to keep them cool in the summer. One of your first contributors said that he lives 40 miles away from a hospital, so he could be picked up 40 miles away, but he wouldn't make it back if the range is only 70 miles. And there lies the problem. It may work in inner cities like Birmingham or London, where you're literally doing 1 or 2 miles and ferrying people around. But if you live in rural Warwickshire, for example, when there are villages littered around a massive county like Yorkshire, UK's biggest county, you're not going to have an ambulance that's going to be able to get down certain towns and villages and get you back to hospital. And that is the massive problem. There are 3 exemptions, in my view: ambulances, police cars, and fire engines, because people's lives will be put at risk because of this stupidity.
I just don't understand why, even for me, who is just, I'm not a whiz on net zero, I'm not an expert on climate, but even I can see that that is ludicrous, and it's going to cost billions, by the way. It's going to cost a fortune. I want to speak to Andrew Montford about this, because the NHS really is struggling in terms of finance, even though it's given plenty of money and lots of it is getting wasted. Is this a wise, wise use of their cash, Andrew?
Absolutely not, because these things are all going to be much more expensive than their traditional alternatives, if you like. But, I mean, you said, Nana, that you don't understand why they would do anything so foolish. And in many ways, I think we're all here wondering why anybody is proposing anything so foolish. The reason, I think, probably is that, and I've said this before, but possibly even on your show, that net zero, climate catastrophe, or climate catastrophism, if you like, is a religion. So this is not really about doing anything practical. This is about signalling membership of the religion. So people like me who say this is a stupid idea, well, this signals that I'm a heretic and that I don't believe, if you like, correct things. But by signaling something really daft, like building an electric ambulance, well, you are showing that you are really firm in your beliefs in climate catastrophism. So we should expect these sort of completely irrational things to happen, because that's the way the mindset works. We need, as a society, I think, to get back to a much more rational approach. The rational way to look at this is it's daft and we should stop doing it. And I think we should be asking questions of the Health Secretary. Why is this being allowed to go forward?
Well, it's our money. So it's our money that we are paying in our taxes to support this nonsense, as far as I'm concerned. Although, look, we've lost the guest who would have been in support of this or given some sort of balance. So I'm going to offer you that balance, which would be that, yes, we understand that we need to be more efficient in the way we use all the metals and precious things within the world, so that we have good air, and everyone wants that. But we have to be realistic with the way we're doing it, and I just don't understand why this should be the case. I'm going to go finally to Danny Kelly. Danny, would there not be... is there no way that an electric vehicle would be a good plan? Because I know you're a motoring expert. You know all about different vehicles. Is there any good, is there any positivity that could come out of using electric ambulances?
No, there's only negativity. An electric ambulance and an ambulance powered by petrol or diesel should be on the road, available to ferry people around 24 hours a day. So you can do that with a diesel engine. You can just spend 5 minutes filling it up at the pumps, but you have to wait, according to reports, 4 hours. So your ambulance is being taken out for 4 hours out of a 24-hour. That is 1/6 of a day. So in effect, you're going to need to buy the equivalent shortfall in ambulances. And where are you going to charge the damn things? You're then going to have to create massive ambulance car park with charging points. There is no benefit whatsoever, Nana. I mentioned earlier on there should be some exclusions, common sense exclusions: ambulances, police cars and fire engines. Your question is very specific. Should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? And the answer, in my view, is no. And they will be doing so if they continue down this road.
Right, thank you very much. And same question to you then, finally. Andrew, should they be prioritising net zero over patient safety? Because this is what we're seeing. If that is the case, they're going to go down this route. What do you think, yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. They should be prioritizing patient safety, because patient safety, we are absolutely certain that if people don't get ambulances, that they will be hurt, they will die. The harms of climate change are still very much hypothetical, and so we should deal with the certainties rather than the possibilities.
Interesting, very much. Thank you so much for that, Andrew Montford, and also Danny Kelly. See you tomorrow, Danny.
See you, Nana. Thank you.
Right, so that's what they think. What do you think? Look, we did reach out, and we did have a guest who was going to say how great net zero is, but sadly they disappeared. This is GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Matthew Larser and Lizzie Cundy. But first, let's get your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
It's 5:31. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. Thousands of customers have not had their online shopping delivered after major supermarkets have been hit by an IT fault. Sainsbury's say the issues today have now been resolved, but no orders will go out until tomorrow. It says contactless payments are back up and running in stores after shoppers queued for cash machines to be able to get their groceries. Tesco is still experiencing technical outages in store and online, and both have apologised for the inconvenience. Vaughan Gething set to become the next First Minister of Wales after winning the Labour leadership election. Mr Gething, who'll become the first black leader of any European country, beat his only rival, Jeremy Miles, getting 51.7% of the vote. And he's expected to replace Mark Drakeford as the First Minister on Wednesday, following a vote in the Senate. Motorists have been avoiding the M25 after the first ever daytime closure. It began late last night and will run through the weekend. Drivers have been told to stay away from a 5-mile stretch in Surrey between junctions 10 and 11. It will open again at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. A long diversion, 11.5 miles long, has been created to direct traffic along the A roads. And the female employee suspended by Formula One's Red Bull has formally appealed against the decision to clear team principal Christian Horner of controlling behaviour. She made the allegation earlier this month, but was suspended as a direct result of Red Bull's inquiry. Horner was allowed to continue in his role. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. Well, GB News Alerts can get you the latest on our stories. Scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. Coming up, MP's pay rise will go over £90,000, really, after the parliamentary watchdog raised their salaries by an inflation-busting 5.5%. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety?
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Welcome back to Headliners. And Paul, we're going to get straight into Monday's mail for some good old-fashioned, traditional male breastfeeding.
Yeah. To answer the question, what is the latest woke hell, Josh? Row as hospitals say hormone-filled milk from trans women who were born male is just as good for a baby as the real thing. It's possible for men, if they pump themselves full of estrogen, to grow larger breast tissue, and they often do. If
or you just eat lots of burgers.
Exhibit A. And once you've done that, it is actually then possible to express or lactate a liquid. Okay. If to that liquid you then add another load of pills, medication, chemicals, whatever, that lactation juice can be fed to a baby.
We don't really... This is not for the sake of the baby. The baby has no benefits from this whatsoever. The studies are very weak on it. It's a bit worrying because, you know, when hospitals started indulging in homeopathy and having, the NHS had homeopathic hospitals, that was worrying because they're supposed to be a trusted authority. And before saying something like this, there should be an awful lot of study done.
I want to shame this hospital. This is
necessary.
University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. That's who it is. And they have written one of the stupidest sentences I have read aloud in the 2 years that I've been privileged to do this show. It says, the term human milk is meant to be neutral and not gender biased.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Oh, my God, we're laughing at you.
I mean, and as someone says here, babies are not props. And that's the scary thing. And when we're not focusing primarily on the health of a baby.
No, but the feeling of a person doing it rather than... It's a bit of an odd way to go, isn't it? So...
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, if you just tuned in, where have you been? There's only 21 minutes to go. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio, and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? Paramedics fear that patients will be forced to wait longer for ambulances to arrive, and this comes as the NHS is set to introduce electric ambulances. I mean, this is raising concerns that the drive for net zero is being put above patient safety. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the NHS be prioritising net zero over patient safety? Because that's all I can see it is. Matthew Lauser.
So they shouldn't be prioritising net zero over patient safety, but I think it is perfectly legitimate to take into account your environmental impact, as long as that doesn't impact on patients. So if you can do the same thing in a more environmentally and sustainable way, good. If your patients are going to suffer because of the choices you've made to go green, then no.
So, in this instance...
So, look, I'd want to know more about the the electric ambulances.
Well, they need to be charged for 4 hours.
Yeah, so it seems to me that
they can go 70 miles now, they can't go faster.
Yeah, so it seems to me that in urban areas where an ambulance in London is never going to go more than 70 miles an hour, then it may be worth, if you can show that it works in that setting, then yes. It sounds to me at the moment, in a rural setting, no.
But remember, these things, everything is powered by electricity. So there was a report a little while ago, I think it was last week, that came out that said that a lot of the so-called things that your car or whatever it is can do, it'll say, oh, an electric car can do this and it can do that. In actual fact, most of those things are wrong.
Yeah, if the electric ambulance isn't as good as a normal ambulance, a traditional diesel ambulance, then no, it shouldn't be used. But if you can do the same thing in a green way, then I'm for it. But we've seen that some of these reports that asthma sufferers are going to have different sort of inhaler, which doesn't work as well for younger and older people. That, to me, seems completely daft. So let's have some common sense here.
Yeah, Lizzie Cundy.
This is absolute nonsense, more nonsense coming out from the NHS management. I'm sorry, enough money in the NHS has been wasted already on the wrong things. Now, in the break, I spoke to my friend who actually does drive an ambulance and he's absolutely in an uproar about this. Not only, he actually said it takes up to 5.5 hours to recharge.
Well, that's what I mean, the statistics, all of this is never
and
true.
Also, they're going to not be able to respond to as many incidents, like 5,300 fewer incidents per day will they be able to get to, because it's going to take that long to recharge the ambulance. Also, there's lots of concern because they're too heavy for the roads, the bridges, car parks to accommodate their weight. It is a real worry. This is absolute nonsense. The government has already intended to award £3.9 million to a project aimed at developing hydrogen-powered vehicles for emergency services. What are we doing? Why aren't we putting the money in the right places? Why isn't patients being the priority? Sorry, Matthew, you have to agree with me.
No, if you're a cynic, you say that they've got 5.5 hours because they're waiting outside A&E, which is stuffed full of people because of the terrible waits in A&E. Look, absolutely, I agree with you to the extent that if unless something can be said to do the same job for broadly the same, ultimately the same cost, then and if it can't meet that test, then my answer is no, it shouldn't be sacrificed on environmental grounds. I mean, one of these things is that women giving childbirth, they're going to have more environmentally friendly pain relief. Now,
that would be less effective for them.
Unless it can be equally effective, I can see the mothers of Britain rising up against that.
I just think
quite rightly.
Is absolute nonsense.
It is.
You have to look at the facts here, and a lot of those so-called, so when they say, oh, this car can do 60 miles on one charge, and a lot of that is actually wrong. So it's in the perfect condition, with the perfect environment, without any wind or rain or cold. Or once you start switching things on, I've been in people's cars where they've gone, no, I've said, look, it's really cold in here, like some of the taxis that will pick me up. So, no, we don't want to put the heating on because otherwise it'll drain the battery.
Exactly.
Or somebody switched off the radio because... And the thing is, it's one power source, so everything is running on this one battery. Whereas on a diesel or petrol-controlled vehicle, you've got the diesel, petrol, and there's a battery. So there are alternative power sources.
I think nothing should be used if it's not been tested properly and been thought through properly. And sometimes people just jump on a bandwagon because they're trying to meet targets. They should be driven by common sense. Of course.
And what do you do with their batteries after? They're so heavy. What happens to them
And they're particularly heavy in larger vehicles. At the moment, battery-operated commercial vehicles is a very small market. So in small city cars, it kind of works a bit better. So it's about common sense. And sometimes the NHS seems to go right, like a rabbit in a headlights, right on the tram tracks, to mix my metaphors, right down in one direction, without thinking through what its impact on real people is.
So by 2030, the entire net zero fleet will be ready by 2045. So the estimates suggest that will cost about 70 million to make the 480 ambulances in the West Midlands. That's alone, and about 150,000 per vehicle over the next 5 years.
Oh, that's great. I've got more wasted money.
I live right around the
things.
corner from the headquarters of the London Ambulance Service, who do a great job. But their ambulances, they've got quite a lot outside. They do create, all the diesel fumes. So ultimately, if we can make it work, it's good. But it's got to work, and not just be for the sake of ideology.
Well, let's see what the viewers think, because this show is nothing without them and their views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Today, I've only got two of you. Oh, but it's two very brilliant voices. I'm going to start with Julie Ford in Bedfordshire. So, electric ambulances or battery-operated ambulances, battery-powered?
I think a great idea on paper, like most of these ideas are. And I certainly agree with what Matthew said, that we need to be looking at more net zero and eco-friendly ways of doing things. But the main issue we've got here is the NHS are already hemorrhaging money. This is not really what their focus needs to be. And my concern is if these ambulances need to charge for 4 hours or 5 hours, and there's a major incident, let's say, God forbid, we have another terrorist attack, and these ambulances have just gone on charge, we can't wait 4 hours for them to be ready to go.
Yeah.
At least if they were on the red light for the petrol, you can nip to the petrol station, put the petrol in, you're good to go, you're gone. If there's a major incident, I don't think these are the vehicles to move forward with.
It does sound a bit of a ridiculous thing. David Balm in Watford.
I can only agree with Julie and everyone. I mean, I'd like to expand this out even further. In Wales, the road limits are 20 miles an hour, including for ambulances. Have people lost common sense? Danny said exclude ambulances, fire brigade and police. It should be by law mandatory that these groups are excused any stupidity. Maybe these people in charge had a frontal lobotomy and forgot about common sense. I don't know. It's stupid.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your thoughts, Julie and David. Exactly. We've struggled to find anybody that thinks it's a good idea, so I don't know where they found someone that thought it was a good idea to come and do this. It's unbelievable, isn't it, really? Anyone at home, if you think it's a good idea, get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.com. At least we'll have one person saying it's a good idea. Kevin, on the emergency vehicles, he said they should be entirely mechanical diesel injection. Jim on the NHS said, I would really love to meet the person who thought electric ambulances was a great idea and the people who implemented it. I'm with you, because we're struggling to find anyone that will go along with this. Clive on the NHS on this topic says not only are the NHS doing daft and stupid things and putting people's lives at risk with electric ambulances, but the army are now doing the same thing with their Land Rovers. Really? And then David said that Danny is spot on. This is pure virtue signalling, unbelievable. The woke NHS management are happy to put real lives at risk to prove a pointless point. Bonkers. Well, thank you for your thoughts. Yeah, we think the same thing. But this is a story that caught my eye, and I just wanted to draw it to yours. MP's pay rise could be more than £90,000. That's next year as a parliamentary watchdog raised the salaries by an inflation-busting 5.5%. We'll discuss that after this.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So a cloudier afternoon for most of us, with rain very much on its way across the UK. This all due to an area of low pressure moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. So those cloudier skies across much of the UK and some heavy rain for Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England that will push its way into parts of Scotland through this evening, turning particularly heavy across southern areas and even some snow for the hills. There'll be a brief drier interlude across the southern half of the UK before further rain pushes its way north and eastwards into the early hours of Sunday morning, leaving a very mild night, lows of only around 10 or 11 degrees across much of England and Wales. Across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, a bit of a chillier start to Sunday and some brighter skies, so some sunshine as we go through Sunday morning. Further south across England and Wales, once that rain clears its way eastwards, there'll be some sunshine developing here too, particularly as we head into the afternoon. However, there will be some showers bubbling up, and these could turn particularly heavy across the Midlands. Another very mild day, temperatures widely above average for the time of year, with highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Monday starts a little drier again for most of us. A band of rain slowly pushes its way eastwards through Monday morning, leaving a dry and bright afternoon for most of us. Plenty of sunshine on offer and temperatures still remaining above average for the time of year. It'll be a changeable rest of the week with further interludes of rain and some drier spells, and those temperatures staying above average.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQs live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQs live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News. Welcome on board. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's almost the end of the show, but it isn't, though. Now, we were briefly discussing MPs' pay rises, but I'm going to go straight to my quickfire quiz, because this is the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other topics hitting the headlines right now. I'm joined by former advisor to the Labour Party, Matthew Laza. Your buzzer, please, Matthew. And also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Your buzzer, please. Right, so please play along at home. Remember, you need to answer after the buzzer. Don't try and answer, you know, because I get quite annoyed by that.
And that's not a prospect that anybody wants to see.
Question 1. All right, which Glastonbury headliner has been announced to headline for the 5th time? Is it A, the Arctic Monkeys, B, Coldplay, or C, the Foo Fighters? Oh, I don't know. Who's that? Matthew Laza.
B, Coldplay.
B, Coldplay. Lizzie Cundy?
A, Arctic Monkeys.
You can... The answer is... C, Coldplay. You're right. Well done.
That was good.
Thank you. That just came straight out of the context.
We were loving that bit of improvisation.
Now, they're going to headline the Sunday night of Glastonbury Festival in June for the first time.
Have you ever been to Glastonbury?
I've never. I don't do mud.
No,
I don't do mud unless I'm going into Winnebago. Right, question 2. Which my friends went one year and they all came back with an infection from the mud.
Maybe it wasn't the mud.
Question 2. Which female member of the royal family has had a replica Barbie made of them? Matthew Laza.
It is the Queen, Queen Camilla.
Really?
It's the Queen.
Really?
The Queen.
The Queen, Queen Camilla, you think so? She got Barbie. Yes, that's right, it is Queen Camilla. She's got her own Barbie doll.
I think it's fantastic.
No, that's her. Is that the doll or her?
That's both.
That's both.
That's her clutching the doll. You need to know.
I love they're wearing the same identical outfits. Fantastic.
I know, that's nicely done.
I want a Barbie. We should have Barbie.
Yeah. And Ken.
You're Ken, yeah?
Do you want me to sing like Ryan Gosling at the Oscars?
With alternating wigs.
I need one, as we discussed before.
I wasn't going to say that.
True or false? Question 3. The Cheltenham Festival, which concluded yesterday, has less attendances this season compared to last year. Lizzie Cundy.
True.
True, she said. Matthew Lawson?
False.
You might as well go with false. The answer is it's true, Lizzie.
You know why? Because they cancelled Ladies' Day.
Oh, I know.
Style Wednesday.
Style Wednesday.
The total attendance figure for the festival was 2024 was 229,999, down from 240,603 last season. Question 4: Who will be new First Minister of Wales? Is it A. Jeremy Miles, B. Warren Gatland, or C. Vaughan Gething? I'm going to have to... You were first, Matthew.
See, my good pal Vaughan Gething.
Vaughan Gething, you're absolutely right. It is indeed.
Oh, look at you.
I know, he's showing off. Yeah, so he's replaced Mark Drakeford, Mad Mask Mandate Mark, as some people like to call him, but obviously he was a great leader, as the leader of the Welsh Labour. And he'll become the next First Minister of Wales, which is quite impressive. Finally, closest answer wins. What was the Wales versus Italy score in the Six Nations? Lizzie Cundy.
Didn't watch the game. Italy won 20-3.
22-3. Matthew Lawson.
18-4.
It's going to be complicated. I hope one of you have at least got it right. 21-24.
I think I was nearest.
I don't know what to do. I can't work that out.
I think Lizzie.
I was nearest.
Stop.
So I didn't watch the game.
No, I won.
No, I didn't.
I don't know.
I was
Let's
nearest.
not argue because anyway, Lizzie, you can't win because he's got 3 points anyway. Yeah. So this means, yes, that Wales have finished bottom of the table for the first time in 21 years. Yes, right. Well, listen, on today's show, I've been asking, should the Tories get rid of Rishi Sunak before the next general election? And according to our Twitter poll, 79% of you say yes, they should, and 20% of you say no, 21 even.
Shows how angry people are.
That's totally disillusioned with Rishi. They want him out.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't think it'd make a difference, to be honest. But thank you so much to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie Cundy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer.
Thank you.
But first, let's go over, because up next, it's time for the Saturday Five. And joining us is Darren, Grimes and Ben Leo. Guys, what's coming up?
Oh, Nana, jam-packed show. It's going to be as fabulous as yours has been. We're going to be discussing, actually, are we safe in the NHS? Because there are people with fake qualifications that have been coming to this country.
And electric ambulances.
Yeah, and electric ambulances, of course. This net zero madness that you were discussing earlier, Nana, it's insane. It's putting people's lives at risk.
I'm going to be making the case for a cashless society. We need to keep our banknotes in the wake of the Sainsbury's and Tesco fiasco today. They're not accepting cards because of the tech madness. Meghan Markle, best places to live in the UK. Can you guess where it is? Holly Valance, obviously back in reform. Penny Mordaunt, is she going to be a good replacement for Rishi Sunak? If it happens, she denies it. And also Harry Potter, our adults.
This shameless filibuster of Liz Truss's bill that would have actually protected and safeguarded kids in the whole trans debate. It really shameless, actually, of Labour to do that, but we'll debate all of that with Benjamin Butterworth's replacement, who is Kai Wilshaw. We managed to find another one.
And a man even woker than BB.
Absolutely. It's going to be one hell of a show. So join us 6 till 8 even. 7 till 8. That was my old show. 6 till 8. We'll see you then.
I wonder, is he a permanent replacement? Only joking. I love Benjamin. Well, thank you again to my fabulous panel, Lizzie Cundy and Matthew Larzer. And as ever, thank you to you at home for your company. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place. At 3 o'clock, be there, be square. Joining me tomorrow will be the fabulous Danny Kelly and also the incredible, I know they're watching now, Christine Hamilton. So I look forward to seeing you then. Stay tuned. Loads more still to come here on GB News. Don't forget, you can download the GB News app, or why not check out everything we have to offer and download things live on YouTube. Don't forget to look up my monologue. Give me a like. I'll see you tomorrow, 3 o'clock, same time, same place. Enjoy, because up next, it's Saturday 5. I'll leave you with the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So it's been a cloudy and wet afternoon for many of us, all due to an area of low pressure that's been moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Saturday and will push its way north and eastwards overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. This will bring some heavy rain and has already brought some heavy rain, particularly to parts of southern Scotland. We could even see some snow across the hills, and overnight and into the early hours of Sunday, some further heavy rain pushes up from the southwest, affecting parts of England and Wales. Under all that cloud and rain, it'll be a very mild night. Temperatures not dropping much below 10 or 11 degrees. But further north, there will be some brighter spells, and that will allow temperatures to drop into the low single figures. So a chilly start for Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, with some sunshine widespread across these regions in the morning. Through the afternoon, though, that band of rain pushes its way eastward, so some sunshine developing for much of England and Wales later as well. There will be some showers bubbling up through the afternoon. They could be quite heavy in places, but another very mild day. Temperatures as high as 16 or 17 degrees across the south, and even for Scotland we could see in the double figures. Monday, a band of rain situated across the UK pushes its way eastwards, leaving a drier day for most of us. Plenty of sunshine through the rest of the morning, but for Northern Ireland, turning much cloudier as we head into the afternoon with that heavy rain arriving. It does then remain unsettled through much of next week, with temperatures widely above average for the time of year, perhaps 16 or 17.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
I'm slipping neck. I don't know what to say.
Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finance